I think we're live. Hello and welcome to Encounter Roleplay on this fine Wednesday and this premiere of Zweihander, The Broken Crown. Let's go around and meet our cast, say hello, see how everyone is doing before we get into the adventure today. And why don't we start with the wonderful Mac. How are you doing today?
Hi. I'm doing great. I'm super excited. This is going to be a new system, but I got to read through the book and it looks so much fun and I'm so ready. But I am Mackenzie Lane D on Twitter. You can call me Mac, and I will be playing Pechorin Folk today. And I'm excited.
I like this excitement. I'm glad it's not just me that's slightly vibrating today.
Oh no, I've been bouncing like this all day.
And Jess, welcome to Encounter Roleplay. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm excited for my wonderful character, Kata, who was rolled up randomly but became the absolute perfect character. So excited for everyone to meet her. Yeah.
Awesome. And welcome back to Shauna. Welcome to Zweihander.
Yeah, I'm very excited. New system, new rules, and random characters, which is amazing. Yep, Shauna, Flying Source on Twitter, and yeah, can't wait to play Cecily J. I wander about, write about garbage.
I love when people introduce their characters as garbage. That's always a good sign, right? I'm, of course, Frost from Fire over here, Charlie, and I'm playing Kit Ari. And she is very excited, I think, to meet everyone. I'm very excited to meet everyone. But Susie, hello. This is your world.
Hi. It is, and I'm so happy to have been let back into the GM seat on Encounter Roleplay. You fools, you let me back. Why? But yeah, tragically, I could not randomly roll myself as a GM, but I am very, very excited to get into telling this story with these lovely people.
I'm muted. That's us. Look at this, a professional. Before we dive into the world, I want to remind you, check out the interactions down below. Hit the clip button if there's anything cool that happens, anything funny. I like making gag reels, so please do that. And if you haven't yet, hit the retweet button over on the tweet that I'm about to throw up in chat. We are heading towards a tabletop loot giveaway, which we will take care of at the end of today's stream if we do hit that goal. So keep an eye on those numbers and hit that retweet button. Before we dive any further, I want to shout out our wonderful sponsors, Zweihander, who have created this incredible system. Let me just grab this book. Oh, this is good luck. Back on my head. Look, it was very exciting. This awesome book, 669 pages. Nice. This is everything you need. This is your player's handbook. This is your monster's manual. This is your DM's guide. Everything you need is in here. And you can play a multitude of settings, from War of the Roses to a classic Lord of the Rings style world. It's going to be grim. It's going to be perilous. But you can do it with this bad boy. And top tip, it is actually cheaper on Amazon than anywhere else. You can get a really good deal on it. I think it's almost half price on Amazon. So go and check that out if you're interested in getting hold of this tome. Tome. That's the word I was looking for. But we have a few other sponsors I'd like to tell you about. Before we begin today's show, I would like to take some time to remind you about our sponsors. Fantasy Grounds, our virtual tabletop of choice. All of the beautiful maps and rolls you see tonight are done using Fantasy Grounds, which you can try for free at fantasygrounds.com. You can also get all of your miniatures from Wayland Games. Go to waylandgames.co.uk and get yourself a huge range of D&D, Warhammer and 40k minis for up to 20% off regular retail price. And Tabletop Loot, who sell incredible dice. Go and check them out at tabletoploot.com. And we're back. Magical video, telling you all about the wonderful Fantasy Grounds, Tabletop Loot, Wayland Games, and our other great sponsors. So, without further ado, Susie, tell me about this broken crown.
Well, Charlie, I will. But first, I would like to just do a little story time with you lovely folks gathered here today in our session 0 of Zweihander, the Broken Crown. It is a cold, dark, and wet day, and in a quiet town, a herald stands on a makeshift dais. He is shivering in his thin woolen coat as he unrolls a parchment with his hands. The king is dead. Long live the king. The herald stands in the town square. His face is gaunt and tired. There is a hitch in his voice as he speaks. His eyes dart around nervously as he eyes the crowd, and then he eyes the soldiers that are placed strategically around the town square. Then the murmuring begins. Quiet whispers amongst one another as the gathered townsfolk begin to process just exactly what they've heard. The murmurs soon turn to raised voices, to shouts. It can't be. King Osiron is avatar of the gods himself. How? Who? What? The herald raises his hand, shaking, pleading for a moment's silence so that he may read the rest of his proclamation. A hush falls over the crowd. King Sefer has assumed the royal position. He states that as Prince Harian is not yet grown, it is his divine right to rule and protect the kingdom. The faces in the crowd turn from confusion to anger. Cries of murder and betrayal ring out from within. Once more, the herald nervously looks around the faces, back to the soldiers, back to the crowd, back to the soldiers once again as they begin to move slowly forwards. I beg you, please, attend this proclamation in an orderly manner so that you may return to your homes, please. But his pleas fall on deaf ears. The gathered townsfolk begin to become a storm of anger as they hear of their king's death. From within the crowd, weapons and makeshift weapons are produced, and as individuals clash with the soldiers, they advance ever forward with their large, imposing tower shields raised. The shouts and cries of defiance and of hurt and anger soon turn to screams as the soldiers advance yet again, the sound of drawn steel ringing out in the air. All right. So, this is our session 0 for the Broken Crown, which will be our Zweihander campaign. Before we get into meeting our wonderful cast and crew, I'll give you like a little rundown, a little primer of what to expect and of what the situation our lovely players gathered here today are finding themselves in. So hey, story time yet again. Sorry, there'll be quite a bit of this at the start. It almost happened overnight. No one had seen it coming. Or perhaps they had. Perhaps that's how Prince Sefer had seemingly in one night murdered his older brother and seized control of every town and every city across the land. Flanked by his guards, you remember seeing King Osiron's wife, Queen Ashea, and his son Harian being marched through the city. You remember seeing them stripped of all their finery and dignity, and you remember the ugly looks on some of the people's faces that were gathered there that day. You remember the jeers, you remember the shouting, you remember things being thrown. Perhaps you were one of them. After all, what had the royals ever done for you? They lived there up in their palace, high above the shit and the horror of daily life in the capital. You were there at the King's Coronation. Not within the cathedral, of course, but in the streets. You had no choice. You had to be. Attendance was mandatory, and it was heavily enforced by King Sefer's new guard. The macabre decorations of the corpses of rebels and dissidents hanging from the streets are a grim reminder of what happens to those who oppose the new king and his will. But maybe that was a good thing. Long had there been rumors of corruption within Osiron's court. You'd seen it firsthand in the streets. From corrupt landlords charging a king's ransom for squat hovels, to protection rackets and muggings in the market. Perhaps in this new order, you stand to get somewhere, to improve your life. Or perhaps you stand to lose everything. There had been an adjustment period to the new monarch. There were small uprisings here and there, but they had been immediately quashed by the ever-present military. And with Queen Ashea and Prince Harry in King Sefer's custody, he crushed all thoughts of rebellion within the minds of those still loyal to their fallen king. And now an uneasy peace has fallen over this kingdom. Or at least, that's what you hear. Talk of rebellion is no longer shouted from town squares or in town halls, but if you listen and you look, you might find that hushed whispers and conspiratorial looks are all around you. That might be all that remains of the kingdom of Osiron. So, Charlie, tell me a little bit about Kittery.
Kittery is a grey-haired, hazel-eyed, young elven woman. She's tall but very slender, nearing underfed. Those who look at her will notice the slight sign of bone beneath her skin, that slight ridging on the back of her neck where the spine presses out. But she moves with a grace and an agility that suggests power. She wears a golden, long mail tunic. Around her neck, the necklace of her deity. She's recognizable as a priestess of the Protector.
All right. Mac, tell me about Pechorin.
Pechorin Falk, or Pike or Falk, she doesn't particularly care, is a small halfling. Wild, light brown hair, cut short, and copper eyes. She's dressed more practically. Trousers and boots, and tunics and belts, and maybe a jacket to hide some of the weapons that she doesn't want other people to know she has on her person. She's got a stack of bracelets on her right wrist, all leather straps, wrapped tightly around her wrist. You don't see her often in the streets during the day. She prefers the shadows, the black markets, and listening to the whispers around her.
Awesome, thank you very much. Jess, what about Kata? What is she like?
Kata is a very tall, very slender ogre. You can't tell really how slender she is because she's also covered in just thick layers of fur, which do a lot to keep her warm because she's so slender otherwise. She does have impressively fine clothes that she usually keeps hidden under some loose-fitting robes. She also, those who usually people can hear her approaching because she has one wooden foot that makes a very distinctive, like, clomping sound when she walks. She is, she's got black hair and ice blue eyes, and she sometimes stands awkwardly in a pigeon-toed stance, but she is otherwise incredibly beautiful.
Oh, okay, a bit of a head turner, I see. Oh my.
Yeah, A very unusual
Let me just-
mix of things. It's Toad Stance that does it, really, that people are really into.
Hey, it's quirky and cute, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She's just like
I like it.
incredibly tall and a little bit awkward, and people are like, yeah, I feel it.
Oh, I can relate. I'm there. Okay. And Shauna, last but not least, tell us a little bit about Cecily Faye.
Cecily J is a young
Oh,
human
J.
female. She's about 5'9", dark tan skin, kind of wild ginger hair tied underneath bandanas. She wears outfits that are kind of flashy, kind of put together, a little mishmash of everything, so you can't necessarily tell what her profession is, what she does. But it's a little ragged, a little dirt worn. But she has a fairly happy smile, talkative. But you can't get the hint that maybe she sees you as a friend or potential mark. So
I see. Well, we appear to have assembled quite the group of remarkable women at the moment here. I'm very excited to see what they get up to. Okay, so how do you feel about Sefer's coup? This will be a question for everybody, so just get marinating on this one. We will go to Charlie first. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Outwardly, Kit has no comment on the coup. Her priestess is that of protecting kings. There is a new king. There is only one king. And as such, she would offer no opinion. She has her duties to go about. Inwardly, she failed the king because the king is dead. And that king was her king. So I think there is definitely turmoil within her, but her duties and her vows are very clear. And so outwardly, she has no opinion. She's in the present, and she has a king to serve.
Mm-hmm. I see. All right, Mac, what about Pechorin?
This is an opportunity for her, mostly. She's never really been fond of, like, the nobles or the uppities up there, and it's never really been her business. She has a bit of a beef with the previous rulership, the grudge, and the new shift in power has given her an opportunity to sort of leave some of that grudge and some of that stain on her history behind her and start over. And so she sees this as an opportunity. She is not above, however, helping some of the rebellion or the Whispers and funneling them supplies they might need.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How does Kata feel about what happened?
She is not into it. She's pretty upset about it. Outwardly, she tries to hide that because she knows that dissent is dangerous right now. But she was actually in training to become the next palace apothecary before the coup. And now that is no longer the case. So while she's still friends with the current palace apothecary, she can no longer go there for her apprenticeship and had to find a different apothecary outside of the palace to apprentice for. The bright side is that she was able to learn a lot more quickly, helping people who had a lot more going on constantly instead of just the few nobles that she saw occasionally. But she was looking forward to having that, being the palace apothecary was going to be incredible. And under King Osiron, that was possible, but now it is not. So she's very unhappy with King Sefer, but won't, she doesn't run around yelling in the streets about it because she doesn't want to be killed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can understand losing that station you were about to get would be a horrible blow. So yeah. All right. And how does Cecily feel about it?
Cecily knew no king, and she certainly wasn't a kin of hers, so what matter is it to her? So, I mean, although the dourness and the concern of the people around her it's bad for, getting by, so let's wait and see if it's opportunities or if it's going to be something that it's going to make her life tough.
Okay. We have a really good mix here. We got some pro old king, some anti new king. We got some, yeah, I'm liking it. I'm digging it. Good dynamics going on. Okay, so what do you all currently do for money in the city? And so just as a heads up here for everybody that's watching, we're doing a very sort of loose, open, sort of world-buildy kind of thing with this campaign where we build it as we go along. I'm not plonking them in my own sandbox and being like, play with my dolls in the exact manner I want you to. You know, we're building it as we go along. So just as a general thing, this answer can be anything you like. You can invent a place, you can invent a job, you can do whatever you like. Your imaginations go wild. Charlie, what is Kit doing for money? Does she need money as a priestess, or is everything taken care of for her?
Money is not automatically taken care of for priestesses. However, she's in a privileged position in society where she is relatively high up within her order and therefore provided for, but it's barely meager. Her real benefit comes from her family. Her family are of not a noble class, but not far from it, as they've made a great deal of wealth. They're well-known academics sought out for their knowledge and their wisdom on a number of topics, and she gets kind of like a stipend, pocket money from them. Not that she has many things to spend it on beyond new shiny swords and tools for her profession, and sacrifices, a very important note on her shopping list.
Just as a question, what does Kit sacrifice?
What Kit sacrifices depends very much on the festival and on the ritual she is performing. There are tokens such as chickens, which represent life, food, and those sorts of things, fertility. There's monetary sacrifice where you buy offerings. And then there are small personal sacrifices that must be made. Promises that can cost a great deal. She has a dooming, which weighs heavily in her mind always, that she will perish in divine pain. She hopes to put off that eventuality. There is a festival coming up in which she intends to sacrifice a great deal of wine.
So that's a sacrifice I can get behind. Okay, what is Pechorin doing for money these days?
Pechorin is and always has been a smuggler. She just gets a few more jobs nowadays, now that things are a little bit in turmoil and supplies are scarce. She normally, there isn't really a location that she can work in, but there is sort of perhaps a black market that she frequents a lot, where she delivers the goods for people to sell. She just basically does a lot of runs between different parts of the city, staying hidden and getting weapons to one group or information to another. It's not the greatest paying job, but she does need the money.
Mm-hmm.
She'll do what she can to survive.
Does she specialize in any sort of smuggling? Is she like a weapon smuggler or like drugs, drink, food, medicines?
She does. She doesn't have any specific specialities, but she has been working to get a lot more, I guess, on the weapons and the information side, just because it's easier to play off the dissent rippling around the town. It's easier to get those jobs. So if she makes herself known as a information broker or a weapon smuggler, it's a little easier to get some high-paying jobs that way.
All right. Okay. Dangerous lady. Okay. And so we know that Kata has apprenticed with somebody else now within the city, rather than being the royal apothecary. Yep, I can say that word. Apothecary. Tell us a little bit about that apprenticeship with this new person.
Well, it is more exciting, more fulfilling than the palace apprenticeship, but it's definitely significantly less money than she was looking forward to. She's able to do the work that she wanted to learn. She's very excited about it. When she was younger, she was a soldier. She comes from a long line of soldiers in her family, and she at one point met an apothecary and got along with them very well and became sort of their guard when they went out looking for dangerous materials for their apothecarying. And slowly through that decided to become an apothecary herself. So was very excited when she had the opportunity to work in the palace. But she has found that she's learning so much more apprenticing for this like town apothecary. And she still tries to accompany other like town apothecaries and others if they're going somewhere dangerous to gather materials. But that is even less work with the new like rigid laws in town about like moving products in and out of town and things like that. So she's the new king has sort of like cut her off in the two realms of her work, which she's really upset about.
Okay,
but she does enjoy her new apothecary.
I have a question for you then. Trying to get hold of certain substances and the like, would you perhaps maybe have had a run-in with Pechorin who could have got you some goods that might have been otherwise more difficult to acquire?
I certainly think so, yeah. She's probably very familiar with Pechorin at this point.
All right, that's cool, that's cool. All right, Cecily, what are you doing to get that cash?
She probably has a variety of things. She mainly just takes jobs, pretends to be that she knows about them, does them, and see if she does or not. She gets a little bit of money either way. So she just goes from job to job like that. But I imagine that since there's most incoming people for a festival, for the coronation, people need to stuff moved to and fro. So she is putting her a lot with basically people that transport stuff, goods and stuff, to places here for right now.
And as well, being a transporter of goods, is there a possibility you have bumped into Pechorin too? Is Pechorin notorious around the city for being someone who can get you stuff? Or are you more on the straight and narrow with these jobs?
No. I imagine sometimes, yes, we probably know each other, and I probably help her out from time to time because money's money, and sometimes that fast money is what's needed. You get a pretty big tab on bars.
All right.
We don't associate too much because I know what you do sometimes.
Yeah.
You leave me hanging.
Yes. I was drunk last night. I couldn't make it. I'm sorry.
I like the idea that Pechorin is like, I'm not going to really get to know you all because plausible deniability. I don't want to be associated with you lot. The smuggler is like, nah, it's too hot for me. Okay. All right. So within your sort of various lines of work and your day-to-day lives, I want you to think about what your ambitions are. Are you happy where you are right now, or do you want something more for yourself? Are you looking to like climb up the career ladder, if it's possible even to do so, or do you want to retire from it all and get a little quaint house in the country and forget any of all of this? Or have you got like sky high ambitions? What are you aiming for? What are you working towards in your lives? Charlie, what's Kit's ambitions in life?
Kit joined the Order to protect, to follow her divine destiny. But with the change in the air, it's become a much more solid goal to continue to climb, to continue to do her work, and perhaps to make right the blaspheme that happened. You can't kill a king.
And say perhaps potentially, perhaps maybe, that goal is achieved. What would she like to do from that point? Or is it a figure it out as we go along kind of deal?
I think she has a vision in her mind of a city which has even more order than we find in this one, where certain things are improved, where life is better, where people are a little more stringent in their following of deities and their duties to them. That the path has become disordered and chaotic because people stray and fall away into heresy, into disbelief. She is definitely a fighter, and she doesn't run. But I think she would like to see changes happen slowly and from within from within structure rather than have her own coup or rebellion.
Mm-hmm. All right. I was just checking. All right. What is Pechorin's dreams? What is she aiming for?
Well, she's not gonna lie. She definitely gets some morbid kick out of the growing infamy she's getting as a dealer who can get you what you want under this order. But at some point, she would just like a break. It's a very dangerous line of work, and at some point, she would like to get enough money to just be able to take a step back from a little bit, or maybe not entirely take a step back, but either hire people to do things for her and just not have to put her life on the line constantly. Whether or not the larger social system, who's king and who's ruling, doesn't really change her, doesn't matter too much to her. She would just like a moment to breathe and a moment to just not be in constant danger. That is her goal.
Sounds nice. Sounds good. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm just gonna write down there as goal says give me a goddamn break.
Yeah, no, that's entirely accurate. That is all Pechorin wants.
Okie dokie. So we know that Kata was wanting to be the royal apothecary. First time, yes. But now that the coup has happened, that has been stripped away from her. Is that still her goal, or has she got her eyes set somewhere else now?
Her desire to be the royal apothecary wasn't that she specifically wanted that. What she's always wanted is to be just the best apothecary she can be, and being the royal apothecary would have, in her mind, afforded her that possibility, getting the best training, being paid very well for her work. So she still just wants to be the very best apothecary that she can be. She also personally, because she comes from a long line of soldiers, and she's probably the first in many generations of our family not to stay a soldier and retire at a very old age being a soldier. She wants to prove to her family that apothecaries should be taken seriously. Because while they do respect apothecaries in some regards, because they can also heal and provide all these great services, some people are sort of maybe an apothecary will help, or maybe they'll just give you random nonsense that will make you sicker, and there's really no way to tell. So she wants to be the kind of apothecary that has a reputation of no, everything she gives you works every time, so that she can prove to her family and to others that this is serious business. We're not just screwing around throwing stuff together. We study and work hard. So that's what she wants, is to be the best apothecary she can, and to prove to her family that she made the right choice in choosing to be an apothecary instead of staying a soldier forever.
Would she want to take on apprentices of her own later on?
She definitely does want to, yeah. She wants to get to a point where people seek her out and want to study with her.
Gotcha. Okay. Oh, it's so wholesome.
I think that Kit and Kata probably would know each other from being around the palace. And also, I think it's very possible that, as an apothecary in training, maybe Kit sought you out for specific substances for rituals, and obviously just general care if she is involved in any palace guard duties at that time, any scuff-ups that happen. So I think we would probably know each other, maybe not super well, or maybe we do. Maybe we're friends because Kit does come from an academic family who have lots of different interests, and maybe she has an interest in your work. I don't know how you feel about that, Jess.
I love that, and it probably would have given Kata an opportunity to just experiment with new potions and things that the apprenticeship wasn't giving her the opportunity to. So she probably loves it when Kit comes around, because she's like, all right, what are we getting up to today? What kind of weird stuff?
I need a poison, a hallucinogen, and a hangover cure.
Got it.
That's
Make sure you
a
label
wild
the
night.
bottles very clearly.
Big letters, please. Put a skull on the poison.
Yeah, Katja
love
and Kit
that,
are probably very close.
Yeah, I
Katja
really
loves
like
it when
that.
Kit comes around.
All right, yeah, we're making bonds here. I'm loving, yeah, good team. Okay, and yeah, so if anybody else, at any point while we're discussing things, has like an input or like, oh, I think my character would also relate to this, please do hop in, because this is all about building our characters, building our relationships with each characters, and the relationship with the city in general. So you know, there is no wrong answer. If you want to say anything, just hop in. All right, and so Cecily. She's taken jobs where she can, some legal, some slightly less than legal, some definitely not legal. What is she working towards? Is it just survival, or does she want something else?
I mean, she just feels like she's building up the skills to achieve something. You know, get your name being said with awe around the city, as well as, you know, retire to, you know, pleasures and riches of luxury, that sort of thing. But I mean, she knows she's destined because she's lived long enough, and you know, she hasn't died yet, and you know that opportunity is due her at some point.
All right, retire to fantasy Bahamas. Got it.
Yes.
Oh, that's a good
Okay,
question. What is the name of, like, is there like an island paradise that we know of, or maybe like an oasis or something like that that we would kind of have a shared cultural consciousness of? That would be kind of a cool thing to establish.
I think maybe there is somewhere quite far away from the capital city that's far enough away to not be involved with the politics, and the weather is always nice there because it's the capital city, so it always seems to be just shit weather all the time. Well, like most of the buildings are I imagine them to be quite close, so even when it is a nice day, it doesn't really filter through down to the streets. So I think we do have a place that's kind of like an oasis far away from there. Does anybody? Well, what would your characters think of this place? Like, is there anything? Was it like perhaps? Is it a place where there's a great temple for Kit? You know, is it maybe a bit less lax on the laws for people like Pechorin and Cecily? You know, is there maybe a great school there for Kata? You know, that kind of thing.
I'm going to suggest there's a great library, because that would be of interest to Kit and Kata, definitely. Maybe it's one of these bohemian places where new and out-of-the-box thinkers gather, and there are also older texts, some maybe questionable texts, and then there's also these really kick-ass parties, because we know that nerds know how to party, right?
Agreed. It's like half library, half nightclub.
Okay, so what if it's kind of like the ancient city of Alexandria? It's a port, so you've got people coming in. There's a great library that hopefully doesn't burn down. You know, and because of the amount of people that are coming in, you're exposed to so many ideas, so many different cultures, because this is just one kingdom in a land. I imagine we're probably on like an island sort of kingdom, sort of insular, which is why this coup could happen. And this city is like this place, this paradise is a port city. How do we feel about that?
Yeah.
I like that.
I like that a lot.
All right,
I like
Red.
the idea that, you know, there are a number of ways to get to it, but especially by sea, because there's something always so epic about having to go by sea to a place.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
it's grim,
love
it's
that.
perilous, usually, with a lot of vomiting at the side of the boat.
Oh yeah, everybody's seasick all the time. Nothing but hardtack to eat. Hardtack and grog. Anyway, on that horrible, terrible note, we will continue on a horrible and terrible note. Now, this is, as the name does say, a grim and perilous RPG. So, Charlie, what is Kit's greatest fear?
I think her greatest fear is something that has already happened, and she fears will happen again, which is the death of her king. And I think it's that nagging fear of not being there. And it's something she's always had when, you know, there's been a fire at a barn in the town or something like that, and it's that fear of, I wasn't there to help, I should have been there to do something. And her worst nightmare happened as her king was killed, and there's this fear that now we're in this turbulent destabilization, that's the word, that, you know, it could just keep happening, that this is the start of it tumbling, and there are only so many places she can be, and it's figuring out where she should be, what she should be doing, and the fear that it could just keep happening over and over. And I think it's something that she would have nightmares about, just that recurring getting there just too late. You know that nightmare when your legs stop working and you just need to run a little bit further, a little bit faster, and it's just like quicksand. And I think that's her fear, is just not being there.
Gotcha. That actually did bring me onto a question which I completely forgot to ask. I skipped it over. But where were you on the night of the coup?
I think Kit wasn't there. She was perhaps performing duties at the temple in the city rather than being at the palace. And she heard the rumors and the rumblings just too late, and she ran through the city to get there. But by the time she was there, it was already done.
All right.
So yeah, I think she was in one of the temples in the city, just getting on. It was just like a normal evening to her. She didn't even know. She didn't even have that gut feeling of something's about to go wrong. She's always expected to have that feeling, you know, that psychic sense, that divine sense, that warning, hello, priestess calling, you need to go to work. But it just wasn't there. She was just having this normal night. And then out in the city, there's, I imagine, that low sound of people gathering, that sound of people moving around. Then you get like that clink of armament and weaponry. And then it slowly kind of snowballs and you realize something is happening and you need to move, and you need to go.
Yeah, I like that. What if, to compound on her nightmare even more, what if she wasn't doing like duties in the city? What if it was like her night off and she feels the immense guilt as well from not even being on duty when it was happening? You know, she was relaxing.
I like that idea. Yeah. Now I'm wondering what Kit does to relax. I'm gonna have to stew on that for a moment, and I'll let you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody just keep thinking about what your character's deepest, darkest fears are, and I promise that I will exploit them as we go further into the game. But I will ask the coup question first, because I did skip that one. So where was Pechorin on the night that King Osiron was murdered?
I think Pechorin was probably enjoying her paycheck from supplying some of the coup some weaponry.
Ooh, okay. All right.
She has, as I mentioned before, she has a little bit of resentment towards Osiron and his guards ruling idea, and I don't think the coup would have been as picky about her reputation, so she would have probably supplied them some of the weapons used in the coup. She might have been closer to the palace around the time, depending on where the supply drop point was. She wasn't directly involved in any of the actual fighting. That just isn't her thing, but she definitely dropped off some of the armaments and the swords and weaponry used in the coup. She might have even been running interference with some of the guards in the town and making sure they didn't get to the palace in time.
Oh, that's juicy. Oh, yeah. Okay, I love that. That's oof. Oh, let me just. The DM brain is
RPG Webby, juicy fucking fruits.
Oof. Okie dokie. All right. Oof. What was Kata doing on the night of the coup? Sorry, I was like, oof.
Yeah, not helping the coup, that's for sure. Kata was probably studying. She was probably in the palace apothecary area, reading up some books, maybe practicing some potions for Kit, knowing that Kit would be back soon, and Kit had maybe just asked for something. So she was actually in the palace when it happened, and was one of the first officers to be evacuated when things started happening, when murmurings and it was clear that something was going on. So she was evacuated pretty quickly and has not been allowed back in the palace since. So she was sort of like tangentially there. Like she was nearby, but didn't hear exactly what had happened until later when the proclamation was announced.
So when the evacuation happened and you were being escorted out, did you resist it? Did you ask questions, or did you just follow orders and leave?
She didn't resist, but she did ask a lot of questions. She kept demanding information, wondering what was happening, wondering why her apothecarying was being interrupted when she was just working and minding her own business.
Excellent. Okay. I imagine that she would have received a very stony response, as I imagine it wouldn't have been Osiron's guards, because they would have been iced pretty quickly by the coup. So I imagine that these were soldiers unfamiliar to you, which might have made that a little bit more traumatic than a normal evacuation had been. But yes, you were escorted safely. You didn't kick up a fuss, and you were kicked out of the palace. All right. And Cecily, what were you up to? As people were getting stabbed, murders were happening left and right, and somebody was having a well-earned drink.
I think Cecily was like the equivalent of like one of those people holding up signs to go into an inn or for a tavern. Like she's calling them to come in. And it was a shit night for that. Like it was her first night, like no one's coming in. I'm not making my quotes. What the hell is happening here? Only later she probably found out there was a coup anyways.
I love the idea that she's, you know, those people like in the US that have those advertising boards and the spinning trays.
Yes.
She's the sign spinner.
She's a sign spinner, yeah.
Yes.
That was her job, and she's like, where is everybody? What's going on?
Oh, I need like 10 people to come in before like my shift's over. I can't.
So, with the streets being so quiet, would you have gone and investigated, or were you just like, it's a job, I don't care?
I imagine she probably, after like half the night, she probably figured out like, I'm gonna be fired anyways, and just like walked off.
So, after being like, screw it, whatever, it's
I'll find something else.
Yeah, I'll get there's tons of jobs in this city. Somebody always needs something. Once the shouts and screams and the sounds of battle, because there would have been bloodshed that night, you could hear them. What did Cecily do? Did she try to join the fray, or did she think, oh shit, and then get somewhere safe?
She probably followed it from a safe distance, but followed it enough that she could kind of like look through some clothing after, you know, some of the fighting, some of the falling, just like, you know, take a little bit of here and there from there.
Yep. Like, oh dear,
You're
you're
take that
dead.
money.
Yeah. Oh, they're dead. What are they going to do with it? Oh, there you go. Okay. All right. So you saw a little bit of an opportunity in the night of the bloodshed. I love it. Okay. So we found out what Kit's greatest fear is, and that it actually came true. What about Pechorin? What are you afraid of?
I think Pechorin's greatest fear is it's dying, but it's specifically dying a mundane death. She knows she puts her life on the line for a lot of the smuggling jobs, and that doesn't faze her. It's the idea of like just dying because she got sick, or even dying because she got caught, especially dying because she got caught, is she fears, and it's not because she fears death, it's just she fears not being anything or not doing anything. She has that like big ambition to just become something important, and the idea of it getting cut short in the most mundane and boring of ways terrifies her.
Gotcha. So how would she feel about surviving it all and dying in old age, but dying in obscurity? You know, she survived, she lived a long while, but she died as a nobody. Would she rather die young and in a blaze of glory, or live that life?
Oh, she'd 100% rather die young and in a blaze of glory.
Okay, I can make that happen.
Yep, I figured.
Wow.
In a blaze of glory.
Blaze of glory. Gotcha. Emphasis on the blaze.
Right. Emphasis on the glory, please.
I'm a nice DM, honestly. Okay, so what about Kata? What is she afraid of?
Mostly she's afraid that since she has these big sort of like lofty goals, she's afraid that nothing she ever does will ever truly really matter or ever really get her to what she really wants. Her dooming is one step forward, two steps back. So anytime something happens that like pushes her back, pushes her farther away from her goals, she feels like that is another step closer to like dying without ever having truly accomplished what she sets out to. So especially like the coup, when she was apprenticing at the palace and now she's not allowed in the palace, and her like sort of mercenary business escorting apothecaries to find dangerous items like outside of the city, both of those things have sort of gone away for her. So she's feeling it in a big way that like as much as she was able to do in the palace and have this like incredible experience there, she was then pushed even farther away from her goal. And she sometimes has trouble seeing like the bright side of things. So even though she does have this new great apprenticeship where she's learning so much more, she's just so terrified that like with as much as desperately as she wants to just like be an apothecary and be incredible at it, she's never going to make it there. That something will always hold her back.
Gotcha. Wow. Oh God, that was real. I feel that one. All right. Okay. I'm loving. I'm like getting really into the psychology of everybody's characters. I'm like, ooh, things to play with. All right, Shauna, what is Cecily afraid of?
I think she's afraid of dying in a ditch and not amounting to anything. Specifically, she wants to show up everyone that raised her that she can do it. She will not die just a bum.
All right. So I kind of feel that Pechorin and Cecily are kind of like kindred spirits in a way. They both have very similar sort of outlooks on life. Does that maybe inspire like a little competitive nature between the two of you? You know, like you both want to like go out and in blazes of glory, be known, be famous. Does that are you maybe going to push each other a little bit further to try and achieve that? Or is it like oh man, she's doing better than me. More people know her name. Dang it. I gotta be better.
Well, we work in separate trades. Like we work together, but we do have I'm a smuggler and you're who knows what. So I don't think Pike sees it as like a competition. It's just more interesting if she does well, then it's like, okay, I'll bring you on board if you're doing well, and then if you're not doing well, then like, nope, yikes, bye.
Yeah, I think for Cecily, it's a lot like, okay, we're kind of like in the same general age, and it's just like, all right, I'm still doing okay. Pechorin's still doing that. Pechorin goes up a bunch. It's like, all right, I have to do something. Got to keep that level.
I like it. It's kind of like slightly illegal keeping up with the Joneses. She's doing
slightly illegal. I think it's
slightly. The word "slightly" is quite a flexible word.
Barely legal.
Okie dokie. And this is one that I asked you all in our little campaign primer, and I asked you all to think about this one for a while. Each of you is harboring a secret. Now, it doesn't have to be anything world-ending. It doesn't have to be like, I'm the one that shanked the king, right? It doesn't have to be anything as drastic as that. But you're holding something back, and I want to know what that is. So, what is Kit's secret?
Kit's secret is that she believes people can come back from the dead, and she intends to use that belief.
Oh boy. Okay.
I'm sorry, it's a little bit big, but that was the one I came up with.
No, that's great. As I said, it can be anything. The secret is... okay. What is Pike's secret?
Pike has been caught as a smuggler before. Under the rule of King Osiron, and that is why she has a little bit of resentment, because that cost her a lot of business. And that's why she wears the leather wraps around her arm. It's to hide the brand that she got. She probably should have been, killed for being caught as a smuggler. And now it's a little bit of resentment and a little bit of she has something to prove.
Mhm.
And I mean, mainly that's it. She just doesn't want that to happen again. That fear of that feeling of being caught, and how badly it tanked things for her is just the thing that sort of drives her.
Okay. And how big is this brand? Is it something quite large? What does it look like?
I was thinking it maybe just like it's at least like half her forearm. I mean, she's small, so it's probably on like a normal sized person. It'd be just like maybe an inch and a half big. So on a normal person, it would just be like on the wrist. But for her, it's about maybe half her forearm. So she's got like a big. She tries to hide it as best as she can. I either like a word like, you know, traitor or pirate or something along those lines, or maybe like a symbol, like a stylized letter on her forearm.
Well, I think what if, because she was caught for smuggling, what if it's like an S for smuggling? What if you are branded with the crime that you did? So she has a big S burnt into her flesh. Because Pike she's like 4 feet 2 inches tall or something. She's
2 inches tall. She's tiny.
She's small. Okay, so she has been marked by the previous king. Well, his men at least. Okay.
It goes all the way up.
You know, he put that rule in place. What is Kata's secret?
Kata's secret is that even though she takes being an apothecary very seriously and doesn't want people to think that they just like brew poison and drugs that like damage people, she is actually a very practiced poison maker, and is part of a small like resistance movement of people who are formerly employed by the palace. And she is interested in brewing like the perfect poison that would be untraceable to try to kill the current king. So she has that going on, and is trying very hard to keep that a secret, because obviously she doesn't want to be caught. And part of that secret involves that she sometimes murders people because she has to practice her poisons.
Okay. That's one a hell of a secret. That escalated real quick.
She has to practice her poisons.
I mean, she do.
I mean, I was thinking maybe if Pike might request, or as part of some of the deal, if Pike gets you some of the supplies you need, Pike might also take some of the poisons you make and ferry them elsewhere. But she keeps it a secret from you which side of the fight it's on those poisons end up on.
Ooh, okay.
That's significant, yeah.
All right. I just want to briefly interrupt here to say welcome, Raiders. Welcome. You have joined us, and it's session 0 for a brand new campaign of the Zweihander TTRPG named The Broken Crown. So we're currently doing some world building right now. We are going around talking about our characters, about their relationships with each other, and right now we're talking about juicy, deep, dark secrets. I adore that angle that she has like this front as an apothecary, but in the back she's brewing some serious shit.
She's ready to take down this entire monarchy. She's over it.
I love it. I also love that angle that Pike is selling on some of these potions and poisons, but she's not telling you who. Now, if that came out, that might be a little point of contention, perhaps, somewhere.
Yeah. I don't know if Kata knows which side of the coup Pike supports. Because Pike isn't super open about it in most of her business deals, because, you know, she needs business. And I think she knows it would end this business if you knew the truth. So there's probably some lies going on there.
Oh yeah, there would have to be, because definitely Kata would not want to work with someone who was like part of like King Osiron's death.
Yeah. And you know, if some of your poisons find their way over to King Sefer's side, you know, it's not my fault.
How did those get there? Oops.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oops.
This is gonna be a big problem later, I can tell.
Oh, I have that earmarked. That's ooh, bring in the juicy fruits today. I am loving this. All right. So, what is Cecily's secret?
I think Cecily just before like she tried her hand at like just straight up just crime and burglary for a little while, and on one I think trying to steal something from particularly maybe like some sort of merchant lord, they got caught, they got chased, and there's an old thing like that says like it only matters that you're faster than the person that's slower, and she tripped her accomplice so that they get caught.
Ooh.
Just pushed him to the ground and just ran.
And how long had Cecily been working with this accomplice? Was it somebody new? Was it an old friend? Is this like a real bad betrayal?
It was an old friend.
Oof. Okay. And how did they react to it? As you tripped them and ran away, did they call out after you? Or did they honor that code and keep their mouth shut, do you think?
I don't know, because I never saw them again.
Damn, okay, you just left them in the dirt.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
It was one of those things where, like, I'll carry it, I'll just run faster, because I was slower. I took everything.
I love it. I absolutely love it. That's ruthless. Oh, yes. That's the kind of, like, oof. All right, I am into it. Okay. So, this is one last general question for everybody before we go into some sort of little mini scenarios that we're going to explore. But what side, if any, of the coup are you on? Would you join a resistance if you found one, or are you a devout to the new king? And are you open about these beliefs, or do you keep them very much hidden? You know, how open are you about the current state of affairs within the kingdom? Kit.
Kit is a priestess of the Protector, sworn to protect the king.
Mm-hmm. And the non-forced answer?
Kit is a protector, sworn to protect the king.
I see.
The true king, the rightful king.
Mm-hmm.
Kit, for all intents and purposes, serves the current king. Behind closed doors, I think it's pretty clear for whom she truly works.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be a while before she openly joined a resistance.
Mm-hmm.
But she's got her own things in the work, for sure.
I see. She's got her own little machinations going. I like it.
She's gotta work within, the guidelines.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They're not rules, they're more like guidelines. I see. So we know that the Pechorin plays both sides when it's convenient for her. She has a grudge against the old king, but in the new king's rulings, he has cracked down on everything with an iron fist. There's a curfew. The town guard have been replaced with like extremely trained soldiers. It's going to make life difficult for Pechorin. So how does she feel about that? Would she be willing to join a resistance to try and make her life a little bit easier? Or is she like, nah, fuck them?
She's very torn because on one hand, she did not like the old rule because that gave her a lot of hell. But on the other hand, this is giving her a lot of hell too. So she's a little torn, and the fact that she did help the coup pretty directly also kind of messes with her because she knows a couple of people who do support the new rule, and despite herself, she cares a little about them and doesn't want to hurt them. But I think it would be possible for her, if push comes to shove, to start siding a little bit more with the resistance, depending on it's a good job opportunity, but two, it's just more of if there's a way the resistance can get rid of this new rule without going back to the old one, then that would be the ideal situation for her.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So, I feel like we know Kata is very anti New King Sefer, but does she vocalize that to anyone? Is there anybody she has confided that in, or is she keeping it very close to her chest?
I feel like Pike has probably guessed just based on some of the supplies that she's needed to procure, but she definitely hasn't said it aloud to anyone other than the resistance, like the very small group of resistors that she's part of. And those are all people that she knew from the previous palace who were in similar positions to her. They were either apprentices or their positions there were somewhat tenuous already. And when the new rule happened, they were just like kicked out and not allowed back in. So some of them are in for like different reasons than her own, but those are probably the only people who know that she's part of some sort of resistance, and everyone else, she on the surface sort of acts like this has nothing to do with her. Like, yes, there are things that are inconvenient. It's harder to get the supplies that she needs, but she has her ways, and she's just going to keep being an apothecary and pretend that everything is fine. And also sometimes some people go missing from the city. What's up with that?
The damnedest thing.
So weird.
So weird.
I actually do have a question about who she chooses to test her poisons on. Is she going after oh yeah, Charlie, you missed a whole thing.
I left for 2 minutes to get a fresh drink. What happened?
What happened is Kata is actually kind of a serial killer.
A little bit.
Like a little sweet Todd, but with poison. Like you're slowly turning people into pies.
If there are people who she knows openly support King Sefer, she'll sometimes target them. But sometimes she just tries to do it completely at random, so that no one sort of figures out what's going on.
Gotcha. Yeah, I imagine she's smart enough to not sort of have a pattern, as it were.
Yeah.
Not as though there's like medieval CSI on the case or anything, but you know, when a group of a certain type of people start going missing, it's kind of noticeable. I think Kata's probably smart enough to be like, probably shouldn't kill all this specific type of people because that would be a bad look.
Exactly. So
All right.
definitely she leans more towards supporters of Sefer, but we'll spread it out as much as possible. She definitely tries her best to avoid people who she knows would be resistors if given the chance.
Yeah, gotcha. I imagine she doesn't go after people who are quite well known either, because that's also incredibly suspicious if they just disappear off the face of the earth.
She doesn't yet.
Yet.
Yeah,
put a
maybe
little
when she
asterisk on
perfects
that
her
one.
poison, she'll want to like make it a very loud murder, because then, I mean, people will investigate that, and if she can get away with that, then she can get away with killing Sefer.
I was just about to ask that if the opportunity presented itself, or would Kata kill the king?
Not outright. She would want to do it in a way that no one would ever know it was her, which is why she wants to perfect her poison.
I like it. I like it.
Before we move on to the next person, I do want to say welcome to Connor Army. Thank you so much for that raid. I'm glad to welcome you in here at Encounter Roleplay. We're doing our session 0 of a brand new Zweihander campaign. There's a little bit of world building going on. And we're finding out some very questionable secrets about everyone around this table. Who to trust? I don't know. But thank you so much for joining us. Please do stick around. We love having you here. Any questions, pop them in the chat.
All right. Okay. So, Cecily, what is your secret?
Oh, I thought we did the secret.
Oh no, we did secret. Sorry. What's your opinion on the? Sorry, brain did not do the thing. What is your opinion on the coup? You seem to be kind of similar as you're playing both sides where it's convenient. But do you have a confidant? Do you have somebody? Have you expressed views?
I think she's become like, when it first started, she was like, yeah, it's okay, you know, still like any old king, but you know, curfews are shit. Extra guards hassling is shit. So she's kind of like, maybe too like, few people that she knows just being grumpy about it. But yeah, but I mean, if the wind blows a certain way, and you know, resistance gets more higher up, you know, it's good to have people in the new regime have an ear or be indebted to you in some way.
I see. All right. Okay, so now we have some sort of just a just do a little bit more character building here. I have a little unique scenario for each one of you. Kit, you were witness to a crime. What did you see and what did you do about it?
Ooh, I think I was witness to someone stealing from the... I was gonna say the donations bin. That's not what it's called. From like the altar of offerings.
Ooh.
And I think it was a young child. And whilst I knew this was a great blaspheme and could bring terrible things on this child, I saw also that they were probably starving, probably poor, and that perhaps their suffering had already been put upon them. And so I let them go. And there are a few things that I think Kit has let go when it has come to the defiance of the gods, because she fears them and reveres them. But I think she understands that sometimes they move in ways that are different from how mortal time and process work. But I think she thinks about that moment often and wonders if maybe she brought doom upon herself in that moment, because it's small things that create giant ripples. But it is something that she did. And I'm not sure she's ever seen that child again, although she does look for them when she walks the city and if she goes to that temple. Preferring perhaps to find an opportunity to gift them something rather than them steal and take.
Yeah, I like that. Especially seeing as I imagine that the priestesses of the Protector have quite a fierce reputation. Their goddess is quite a fierce and powerful goddess, someone to be feared as well as revered. I imagine people stealing from her temple would be a great transgression and would probably involve some sort of physical punishment if you were caught. So Kit letting this child go is quite the thing.
And Kit herself is a very fierce person and very, no nonsense. This is the way it is, and there's a reason for that. She will stand there silently and watch, and it's, for a lot of people, it's that moment of the eyes of God are upon me. I better not do anything because she knows what I did last summer. It's, it's that terrifying, weighty moment. And I definitely think there was a moment where the child and Kit kind of caught eyes, and the child knew they were caught, and she just stood and did nothing. Kind of like the guards at Buckingham Palace, she just stood. She just let it go.
All right. That actually does bring me to a question that I did want to ask everybody. So the world that we are inhabiting with these characters is a polytheistic. There are many gods. And you are not necessarily tied into worshipping just one. The way polytheism works is you kind of revere the whole pantheon, but you pick one or two as your patron deities. Does anybody else here have a patron deity or anybody that they revere or even just passingly worship? Or are you kind of take or leave the gods? We'll start with Pike.
I was thinking Pike. If I remember the list correctly, I think the moon would be the one who would be her chosen patron. Just mainly because she does a lot of her work at night, but also that idea of change and things shifting. And I think the idea of new beginnings and starting over, with the way that the moon shifts from new moon to full moon, definitely not only plays into her idea of supporting the coup, but also her doom, which is new beginnings herald sudden ends. So she's very focused on the new beginnings part of that part of that. That's the part that she likes.
Yeah, I really like that. I feel like that's a really good sort of summary of the moon as a deity. Yeah. Nice. Does Kata follow anyone?
She does. She is also interested in the moon and that aspect of new beginnings. And there's also another god, if it's okay to just add another one in there.
Absolutely. As I said, we'll just make gods as we go. We'll do whatever.
known as the Crone, who just has a very similar, that Kata feels a very strong relation to, because the Crone is sort of like a misunderstood older woman who, like, people see her and expect that, like, her cauldron is full of poison when actually she's trying to heal, or expect that it is made for healing, and in that case she is poisoning. So she feels like a strong connection to the Crone, who is known for her, like, alchemy and like potion brewing and things like that.
I love it. I love it. And what about Cecily? Does she worship anybody, or is she kind of like, eh?
I think in public she's just kind of like, or she will kind of like, pray to anything, kind of like as like some sort of like good luck thing. But I think she actually does privately like really like follow the artist. I think because I think that's the one that she was raised with. Because I think she's spent the most time with like a traveling like theater troupe, and that's what they did, and that's kind of what she's used to. Who she relied on.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. As I said, like, these gods can have as much or as little influence over your lives as you like. You could hold your worship of them could be anything from think about you once a day, chuck a prayer up there, look after me, big guy, or it could be you carry totems, or you have a small transcription of a prayer, or a seal or something you keep with you, or you could go to a shrine. You could do sacrifices in their honor. So the worship of these gods is intensely personal to each person. Some choose to devote their lives to a god or a goddess or a deity, much like Kit, or you could just passingly be like, thanks, big guy, and carry on with your life. So yeah, I really like that. Everybody has their own sort of little angle they're going after there. Okay, so
can I just add that I think whilst Kit is devoted to the Protector, I think she does follow the other deity. They all exist. Yeah. They all have some facet and part in our lives, and she is reverential to all of them. She's just obviously sworn to the order of the Protector. So she probably has a very busy life making sure that all of the gods are placated and properly served.
Yeah, I love it. I imagine she's got like a whole set that she's like, okay, like in a medieval bullet journal. She's like, do prayers to this one today. Tick, tick, tick. Gotcha.
Oh no, I haven't made an offering to the moon in 2 weeks.
Right.
Shame.
I'm gonna put an arrow on that one. Schedule that for another day. All right. Okay. So, Pike. You owe a debt to somebody. Who and what is this debt? It can be anything from a lot of money to a life debt to a blood debt to anything.
I think Pike owes a debt person who helped her get out of jail the first time she got caught. I think there was probably a guard or a couple of guards who were already, perhaps it was like the first seeds of the coup or the resistance, and she was just, while sitting in a jail cell about to probably be executed, she was able to convince them enough to let her go. And she has that debt she needs to repay for them, which is how she ended up, or one of the reasons why she ended up helping more directly and being more involved in the coup in the first place. Now that the coup's over, they still hold that debt over her head, despite she feels that she has paid and done way more enough to fulfill her debt, but I don't think those guards who have probably now risen in power as Sefer's captains of the guards, they still hold that over her, and they still, remind her, hey, we helped you not die that one time. You owe us your life, so you better do things for us.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you, Jorian, for that donation. I have passed on the details, and we'll see how that comes into play.
We'll see. All right. So, Kata, you have made an enemy somewhere along your line of work. What happened to make that enemy, and who are they? It doesn't have to be, again, it doesn't have to be someone who wants you dead. It could be someone that you just pissed off one day. It could be a neighbor who keeps dumping his chamber pot, on your front step. It could be something. It could be something minor. It can be something huge. But you have made an enemy. Somebody out there doesn't like you. Why?
I think probably at some point during her stay in the palace, there was sort of like a guard-like person who she just sort of had a swift falling out with, nothing major, but he was then one of Sefer's guards who escorted her out during the evacuation of the palace. And they already didn't get along very well, so even though she was just demanding answers and not trying to start too much of a fuss, at one point she lost her temper and hit him and knocked him out because she's 8'8" and a strong girl. And knocked him out and maybe embarrassed him on his first day of the coup, and he was not making a good impression. So he probably hates her quite a bit and still works in the palace. So that's part of why she has trouble trying to go back at any point, is he's also there. She's also not allowed in the palace, but if she ever sees him around the city, they have that dagger eyes at each other.
Gotcha. I'm not saying that Kata has a list of people that she would happily see poisoned. Is this guy on this list?
Absolutely.
Is he
I'd
kill this dude?
Oh, absolutely. As soon as she feels confident enough in her poison that she could poison someone without them immediately suspecting it was poison, he's gonna be the first that she tries it on. Right now, it's just making sure it's effective and deadly. But when she gets to a point where it becomes less traceable as poison, then that's when she's ready to be going for you, man.
Gotcha. Okay, so there's this thing in this game called corruption.
I don't know why you're choosing to bring that up right now. That seems completely unrelated.
I mean, no, I love it. Some real juicy fruits come up in this little session zero. Okie dokie. So, Cecily, tell about an encounter that you've had with King Sefer's new guard in the city.
I think for her, it was just she was trying to basically drunkenly, aggressively haggle with someone, and the way she's dressed is she's could be mistaken for a beggar, and they just kind of give her a hard time. I think it's just and it's just I see you. So, and that guard has been on my ass the entire time now. I think I said something. I called him a piece of shit a few times. Bunch of rude gestures as I left, but I keep seeing him. I keep seeing a group of them. I'm starting to get paranoid.
Are they perhaps now after this kind of trying to pin stuff on you whenever they see you, or they're hassling you whenever they see you, even if you've done nothing wrong? You could walk down the street and they're going the other way and they would stop you and check to make sure you're not committing any crimes. Have they got it out for you after this?
I think so. I think it was particularly I was not kind in a way. It was probably just a flurry of vulgar insult and probably some spitting at them.
All right. Okay. Building bridges within the community. All right. Okie dokie.
With the enemy thing, I had an idea. Sorry, Susie.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Flash, and I think Kit has an enemy too.
Oh,
I
okay.
think it's this bird. You know how when you're going to sleep and the dawn chorus kicks in and there's that one really aggravating blackbird that decides to sit on your windowsill and tweets. I think there's a bird that calls out, and it's just before Kit should rise anyway, and she's trying to get her sleep. And every morning as she goes out, but she can't do anything against this bird because it's a symbol. It's a representative of some deity, but she has this animosity. But as it's grown, she's begun to suspect the bird isn't just a bird. but she can't quite work out if it's a friend, if it's a foe, if she's paranoid and she just gets some more sleep. But there's this bird, and it haunts her.
I like it. I love it. Nice. Okay, so.
And
I
also,
feel like
can we
that-
talk about tall and small, the murder duo over on
Right?
that side of the
Can
screen?
So I know I said before we started that we should at some point do a master blaster and get the small on the back of the tall and go on a
Yes.
little bit of a rampage, but I wasn't expecting any of this.
Tall and small, the murder duo.
Very much.
Oh, you're muted, Mac.
I'm not saying that Pike wouldn't help for like a little extra change to get Kata the information she needs to find people to murder, but I'm also not denying it.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing that happens on the side, and we are like the best looking murder duo in the city.
I mean,
You know, Pike owes a life debt to one of those guards who literally won't shut up about it. So, you know, if you happen to perfect your poison, it'd be fine. I wouldn't.
I'm not
I wouldn't
sure
say
that's
anything.
how life debts work.
I mean, life debt is a debt until life is over. You know, life can be over pretty quickly.
I think I paid it in full. That
Yeah.
asshole keeps holding it over me.
Yeah.
So you know, it's fine. I wouldn't be I wouldn't say no.
mm-hmm. If he
posed
mysteriously
poison.
died, that would be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
Oh my god.
Love this.
So the little duo is called If Looks Could Kill.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh yes.
Is this that
The murder-
80s Wham cover band? Is that what's happening?
Oh my god. Imagine the cover art. Oh, I'm imagining like a Simon and Garfunkel ass, like they're leaning against each other,
Black and
arms
white.
crossed, black and white.
Except like I only go up to like
You're
the
standing.
hip.
You're standing on a bunch of like boxes to get that thing. Just
I have to stand on like 10 different crates.
Yeah,
Just
just
to be
a CD cover out and just unfold it until you see Pike at the bottom.
Kata's just standing up straight and Pike is leaning against her leg.
It's like the cover of Twins, the
Yeah,
Arnold Schwarzenegger Danny DeVito movie.
that's what it is, absolutely.
As Herb just said in
Oh my
chat,
God.
careless arsenic.
That's the first single.
Yep.
I'm so here for this.
yes.
Oh, this is honestly gritty and dark, I promise. All right, so I feel like we've got a pretty good handle on who our characters are at this point. We know their motivations, we know how they think, how they feel, what their goals are. But we don't know much about the land they're currently living in, and more specifically, the city that they find themselves in right now. The only thing we know about this big city, it is a big-ass capital city. There is a curfew at night. It is heavily patrolled by militarized guards, because of course militarized soldiers, that's the military. But tell me something about King Osiron. Something that everybody would know about him, about his rule or him as a person. Could be anything from how he looks to his policies on smuggling, maybe, perhaps, or his sort of general benevolence as a ruler, if it was benevolent. We will start with Charlie. So, Charlie, tell me about Osiron.
King Osiron had a secret family that he cared for them very well, but it was kind of something that he kept out of court for a number of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's something within the rules that kings have to follow, but he has this family on the side that he cared for, but they couldn't be his public family because he's a god.
Dang. I mean, damn, okay. And where do we think they are after the coup? Are they far away, or did he keep them far away, or did he keep them at the palace with him?
I don't think they were at the palace, but I believe they would have been in the city.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they disappeared after the coup, and it's not known which side has them. And I think there's a lot of, do you know where they are? You know, within the protectors even, because they're part of the king's world, do you know what happened to them? Where did they go? And no one knows. Or no one says that they know, and no one's claimed that they have them either.
How common would that be? Do people know? But oh no, obviously you said it's a secret family. But obviously the public didn't know. But what about the palace?
I think
Would
the palace
Sefer
knew.
know?
I think maybe Sefer would know, because the king believed he would always be king. Didn't suspect his brother was going to come along and murder him. Because I don't think that's something that's happened, not in recent history, a coup of this kind, so murderous and so quick too. So I think he knew, but it's one of those the public maybe didn't know, but family knew, people at the palace knew. Because you had to make special arrangements to escort the king to see his family or have the family brought to him, and those kind of things. It was one of those, don't mind the servants, they're just scenery, but servants know things.
All right. Oof. All right. Yeah. Dig it. Dig it. Mac, tell me something else about Osiron.
I think the justice system is, for the most part, benevolent, but when it comes to deciding fates or deciding like sentences, it is very black and white. It is, scales tip one side or the other sort of deal. If you find yourself on the wrong side of the scale, it's a very quick journey to the noose or something along those lines.
All right. No, I like that. I very much like that. And that's why some of the punishments seem bizarrely harsh, because it's very black and white. All right. No, I dig that. Jess.
I think that he was very encouraging of new pursuits. So the reason Katza was able to be an apprentice at the palace, and the reason she was able to befriend so many other apprentices who are all very disappointed about the coup, is because King Osiron had these like systems in place for people who maybe wouldn't have had the opportunity otherwise to like take on these like very impressive apprenticeships and really like go far in their field. And that's part of why this resistance formed, is because now no one has that opportunity. Now he's made, King Sefer has made much of like who works in the palace very insular, and it's hard to get anyone new in there because he only wants people he trusts. Whereas Osiron was sort of more open and thought like, oh, this is going to be fine forever. What could ever possibly happen to me? So that's part of like her disappointment, is that not only did she lose the opportunity, but everyone like her lost this opportunity as well.
I really like that. So would you say that then perhaps the Osiron was really popular with like academics and things like that because he was so open to these new ideas? Do you think that maybe under his rule there were like some really cool advancements made in all sorts of wacky ways because Osiron was like, that sounds rad, let's do it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so, yeah. He was very open to that stuff. If you could explain it to him, and even if he didn't fully understand it, if you were able to be like, here's this cool thing that I think would work, he's like, yeah, do it.
Love it. Okay, yeah, no, that's awesome. That's great, yeah. Okay. Shauna, tell me about Osiron.
All right, this kind of goes with that previous one. He was terrible with money. All these pursuits went there, but it left the kingdom in debt, and he is in the pocket of a bunch of richer families. Like, it's open secret that he kind of just has to do whatever they want to.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense. You know, if he's so lackadaisical by supporting just like anything that he thinks sounds cool, it makes sense that he would be a little bit reckless with his money, and that would get him into trouble because, you know, money does make the world go around, even in a grim and perilous medieval RPG. Okay, so we all know about the good king. Tell us about the new king. Charlie, tell me something about Sefer.
Sorry, I had all of my fans on. I had to quickly turn them off so I could unmute myself. It's very warm and I'm awake today. So Sefer has a wonky nose. And there are lots of stories about how this came to be. But the truth of it is that one night he stumbled drunkenly, he missed a step and just smashed his face into the ground. But he's tried to spin it that it was a noble duel for some lady's honor, that it was a fight against some terrible foe, and all manner of things. And mostly you don't mention the nose. But the truth of it is he stumbled drunkenly and just face planted into some cobbles, and there was just that crunch. And it just went to the side. And apart from that, he's remarkably good looking. And it's like that one tiny thing. And it's like, if that nose was just straight, the guy would be like a golden god walking.
I love that. I like the idea of when he's in power, there's just a memo that goes around the palace. And it's like, number one, don't mention the nose. Don't look at it. Just anywhere but the nose. Ixnay nose bang.
I think it's one of those things that in public he would laugh along with the joke, but in private he'd be dialing his, best assassin and be like, she mentioned the nose again, she's got to go.
Is it something that he is sensitive about? Like sometimes kings and nobles might be a little bit sensitive about some things. Is that a thing that he would maybe act against somebody about if they were constantly
I think if it was constant, he would, because he would see this as mega undermining, making a mockery of him. If it was during a feast, he would laugh along, offer them another drink, but there'd be that dangerous look in his eye that says, do it one more time. I dare you.
I like it. I like it a lot.
And I think maybe in his younger days, he would just say, all right, outside, right now, sort this out. You like my nose? Would you like one like it? Is that younger aggression? But I think as he's shifted and he's set his eyes on the throne and all of this comes past, he's kind of changed his approach a little bit more as he's become the king and he's become a god.
I think he's tempered himself a bit, yeah.
At least seemingly, although he is
seemingly
iron fist.
Behind closed doors, he throws himself on his bed and screams into his little pillows. Yeah. Okay. So, Mac, tell me something about the new King Sefer.
Kind of bouncing off something Charlie mentioned, I'm thinking there is a rumor. There's enough evidence for a lot of people to believe it's true, but there is a rumor that Sefer does have a network of spies that just sort of permeates the city. Spies and perhaps even like assassins or people who just pose as ordinary folk. And they look ordinary. They look like ordinary common street workers or, bartenders. But he has that system of ears and eyes out that sort of funnel him threads of information here and there. And there have been whispers of people who have gotten caught doing it. But anytime someone seems to have been caught, they just sort of disappear. Whether or not it's like, oh, you got called off to another town. Their family member is sick. But, there's no evidence saying otherwise.
So I really like the idea that some of the people that go missing because of Kata, it's assumed that they've gone missing because of the spy network. So Kata's kind of like, oh yeah, I've heard about the spies. Have you not heard about the spies? People go missing all the time. It's so strange. As she's brewing a potion, I like that idea. But I also really like that idea of that being a tactic to, even if he doesn't, to suppress the populace, right? Because the number one way to quell a resistance is to make people suspicious of each other. And so if he sows these seeds of your neighbor, your mother might be one of my spies, I think that's a really good sort of angle to work with there. All right.
I think also there's a promise if you are one of these spies that you get good rewards for it. That it's, it's a lavish thing to do. If you whisper the right thing to the right person about the right neighbor, that's a good in with the king.
I think it would also spur everyday folk to be more forthright with if they spot any signs of resistance, because King Sefer looks after the people that work for him. So if I tell them that my grandma is a resistant agent, they'll look after me because I've handed in one of their agents. I like it. All right. Kata, tell me something about Sefer. Jess, sorry. You're not Kata, you're Jess.
That's fine. I answered both. I think one thing about Sefer is that even though he maybe initially thought that he was in the right to kill his brother and take the throne, he's come to realize that it was entirely selfish. Maybe at one point he thought, Osiron isn't running it correctly. I could do a better job. I can make a difference. Maybe at some point it was about that, but it became a very selfish goal. And so now he has a very deep fear of the god known as the Just, because he knows that what he did was not just, and he knows that the gods are real. So now he lives in fear of that particular god's retribution, because he knows that what he has done is not just, and he knows that he has a close connection to the gods with the priestesses, the protectors who work in the palace. So he's sort of distancing himself from parts of the pantheon, because he knows that what he did wasn't right.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that he's probably just living day to day with this low-key paranoia, but it will fight with the ego that he has inside of him that, no, of course I was right to do this. I'm King Sefer, he would have to fight with those two sides of himself. I think that would also help explain how he's keeping a tight, insular crowd around himself at the palace that he knows he can trust. And yeah.
And that's part of the rumors of this spy/assassin network. It seems like a lot of the people who very openly follow the Just have gone missing. And there's been a lot of anything that's considered sort of a symbol or a sign of that god seems to get quelled very quickly.
I really like that. That's really cool. All right. Shauna, tell us something about Sefer.
All right, also Sefer is unmarried at this moment. And that's for the mover and shakers to get that power, get their person in that leadership. So that's something.
I really like that. So there's courtiers and nobles trying to get up in there, I imagine even if he's in a parade, there'll be commoners trying to get his attention, trying to pull a Cinderella, oh, King Sefer, look at me,
an incredibly beautiful apothecary who needs a way to poison him.
I mean,
yes.
She's just front and center. She's got makeup done. She's got her hair done.
She's also 8'8". Doesn't even need to be front and center.
Yeah, you can't not see.
Covered in hair. Yeah, she's ready.
Yeah.
She can stand anywhere and all eyes.
So, hey.
Who's that person all the way down there? Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. Kata's keeping that in mind.
I like the idea of this crowd pan, and we just see chest, and then the camera slowly cranking back and trying to get all of Kata in frame.
She's just casually leaning against something oh, I didn't see you there.
Who, me?
Swish.
And there's these green poison lines just curling around that.
She has a bandolier of poison.
Hello, I didn't see you there.
Draw me like one of your spy girls.
So tying in a couple of these things here, I also kind of like the idea of there being a very public ousting of one noble family that tried to get in with the king. I would like to imagine they had a portrait painted of him, but the portrait artist has only kind of seen what Sefer looked like, so he was not A, as hot as he should have been, and B, the nose was emphasized.
Oh.
And Sefer was unhappy. We're talking Henry VIII getting the portrait of Anne of Cleves, and then when she turns up, he's like, the fuck? And I imagine that it was a very public ousting of them. They were removed from favor.
The 10-foot tall painting of like, oh.
I see. Yeah, I imagine it was a huge thing too. Not like a little panel board dealie that you could maybe slide out under a thing. This was a big thing, and they completely cocked it up. I love that idea. All right. So, tell me something about the city that you live in that everybody knows. So whether that be a district, a particular shop, you know, a type of people that live somewhere or anything like that. So just tell me something about the city or even the structure, the hierarchy, just something about day-to-day life. Charlie.
I think in the city there's what's known as like the Gardens Quarter, and it's a much smaller quarter than the others, so it's not a true quarter, but it's an area where people can grow their own crops within the city, like small allotments, but it's also got the Royal Garden, which has imported flowers and great big tropical plants, and it's a place where in the summer people like to go and have picnics, and it's one of those places where kind of the lower and highers interact and they share a space because it's such a wondrous place and it is an open and public space. There are lots of little rules like don't walk on that patch of grass, don't lick that plant, it'll kill you, and things like that. And maybe at night there are parts of the park that you don't go to because you know Pike is there, and but it's that sort of space. It's a grand and decadent formal garden on one hand, and in other areas there's places for people to just grow food for day-to-day living. And it's something that I think in the past there was maybe a great siege of the city, and this was part of how the city survived. They just started growing their own stuff. They stuck carrot down in the ground and hoped that thing grew, and it did, and it kind of blossomed as this larger city, its larger garden.
I imagine that in that case, this is a place that's pretty well cared for. Even for people without a lot of money, you know, they're not trashing this place because this place is your breadbasket. When everything goes tits up, this is where you can get your food. So I imagine this is a pretty by everyone. This is like a big community place. All right, that's cool. Tell me something about the city, Mac.
Sort of bouncing off there are areas in the garden that you don't go at night because, you know, people like me are there. There wasn't one dedicated area like that is dedicated to like a black market area. Rather, it's a series of like, it's a spider web of meeting locations. You know, this is where you go for like information drops, and it's this weird unspoken code of, you know, this is how information drops happen. Of you just walk by, you don't make eye contact, but that's how you get information. In like the garden at night is where you know exchange information about a possible sale, and then there is a certain tavern that in the back alley behind is where exchanges will happen for these sorts of goods, or where drop-offs will happen for these sorts of things. And if you are entrenched in the black market, you know how to follow this web, even more so than like the actual city streets itself. And part of the challenge and part of proving that you are trustworthy enough to offer a job to people who deal on the black market is being able to follow this spider web network of like stalls, essentially.
That's super cool. Is it all sort of like orally sent to each other? Are those clues, or are there like symbols that you use that you can integrate in?
I will say most of it is oral, but there are like in certain like some of the brick faces you'll see like an imprint of like a symbol, or like maybe like an 8 points like star, like a compass rose in like the corner of a tavern, and you know, okay, if you turn on this corner, that is where a drop off point would be, or something like that. Or small things like in the cobblestones.
Yeah, I like that. And I imagine that you would sort of develop your code for like, don't come here right now, there's a guard or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like there would be kind of like Thieves' Cant in D&D, a way to communicate without outwardly saying, hey, police, you know?
You knock over a bucket or a chamber pot, there it is.
It's called kicking the pot when things go bad. I'm gonna kick the pot. All right. Jess, tell me something about this city.
There is a gym in the city a place where people can go to just like work out and get stronger, that people have started to go to less and less because King Sefer is sort of discouraging people who don't work for him to basically like be strong. And it is something that was frequented specifically by ogres, and it was open to everyone, but because the gym was made just sort of like with ogres in mind, all of the equipment is made for people who are already like incredibly strong, for people who are like gigantic like Kata is. So it was one of her favorite places to go before the coup happened. And it's a place that she still tries to go, but she doesn't have the community there anymore that she used to, because the guards tend to like discourage people from going. They basically don't want any soldiers in the city or anyone with soldier training who doesn't work for King Sefer. So now maybe that also encourage the building of like an underground gym where people can go to work out still.
I love it. Like
A black market
gym. Black market gym.
I just had this idea of like this tiny human walking into this gym full of ogres who are all like 8 feet tall and absolutely stacked, and standing on a couple of pallets to do a squat rack. And he's been spotted by a huge ogre. But I imagine everybody's really supportive of this tiny human that had the guts to come in there at this ogre gym.
Oh, yeah. Everyone is absolutely welcome. It's just that, like, it's not necessarily like built for everyone, but anyone who comes in, every ogre in there is like, I'll spot you, let's do this.
Yeah, look at you. You're ripped.
Get
You're
built.
glistening. Yes, you do live, bro. If phones were a thing, they'd be taking pictures for him, updating the Insta stories.
Exactly.
I love it. I love the idea that in this new kingdom that's moved underground, and now like being strong is like an act of resistance almost. You know, having muscles is something that is seen as an act of resistance. Love it. That's great. All right, Shauna, tell me something about this city.
I'll say that the entertainment district is more vertical than it is like flat, just because the way it was zoned, that it was a small area, so they built up, so it's the tallest area. So there's like, it's one of those places that have like walkways going from roof to roof instead of like just sidewalks and stuff like that. So it's a very compact. Because I think that was maybe when they built it, it was zoned that way. We're like, this is only allowed here, and they just like, we have no place else to go. So it's up or down,
Yeah, I like that. And I feel like people start to get really creative about using the space they've got. We might even see like technological advances made there. Maybe they have like really sort of basic lift systems, you know, like an elevator. It's nothing more than a rope and some pulleys, but they've had to adapt and grow. What kind of things would we see in this entertainment district? And that's basically open to anybody that would like to contribute.
God,
How big of a role does like music play?
It was probably bigger before Sefer, because probably now everyone is worried about playing something he doesn't like and being killed by a secret spy or something.
Yeah, I think the entertainment district used to be bigger than it is. Almost overnight, stalls disappeared. People kind of pulled down awnings and everything kind of closed off and became more quiet. And it shifted from like a marketplace of entertainment where it's kind of carnival every night to some degree if you know the right places, to more like there are now like speakeasies where you knock on the right door, you say the word, you look at the windows and see what color curtains are hanging up to know if this is the place you go to hear a certain kind of music or to indulge in, you know, rare food, decadent food and things like that. Because I think I would like to think in the city food is important, and because it's been a fairly well off city for a long time, we've enjoyed imported foods and good foods, and so there are restaurants that people go to enjoy these things. You have to have money. You know, it's not just anyone, but it is a thing of entertainment to go to these, you know, public feasts almost where you sit around with the right people, and kind of almost inspired as well by like Japanese tea houses where there's a ritual to it and you exchange, you know, these tapas dishes and in a particular order, and you do business on the side in that way.
I also like the idea of, because it's like a vertical city, maybe there are some like artists and performers who have this sort of like guerrilla performance thing that they do, where they'll go to like the roof of a very tall building and do like a quick performance and then scatter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like part of it.
Kind of imagining
the black market network is just like very quickly shifted, and the language itself is shifted and started spreaded a little bit more to have that be the hub instead of the other places it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's
Yeah,
a
like
lot
everyone's
of,
interested in art now because it's mostly banned. Sorry.
I think there's the public art is almost now graffiti, and it moves from like the abstract, great big image murals to, you know, the king's nose is broke, or, you know, in little ways. And Diddy and Chat actually just posted something that I think is really funny, and we should include, is the rose in the nose is now banned throughout the land. The song that was sung.
Yeah, I love that because
Beautiful.
King Osiron, you know, overall was seen as a very quite good king that people liked, right? So the rose in the nose, the king and his brother, it could be a tale of these two brothers, which is a song, an epic song, which is, you know, changed over the years. And now maybe that's kind of like a resistance song, maybe. You know, if you whistle a couple of bars of the rose in the nose, they know whose side you're on.
Oh,
But yeah, going back to like those acrobats and stuff doing like a little performance, it's kind of like an illegal Cirque du Soleil just
Cirque du
moves in
Soleil.
for a bit
Yes.
and then comes out really quick. Yeah,
I like
no,
the
I really like.
They use some magic too to fill the air with a particular color light to draw that attention, almost like it would be like a modern spotlight, but it's conjured, it's summoned from either a magic pool, arcane thing, because we have a little bit of magic in the world, and that's dangerous to call upon, but it's worth it if you're making this display.
Okay, then, so I have a question for all of you. Have any of you ever been to one of these illegal shows or to one of these speakeasies? I mean, I assume Pike just lives there.
Yeah.
That's where I do all my work. Yes.
Pike's the club promoter, does all the booking for the houses.
I think
put, like,
Kata
the
has
secret
been there and
plan
almost got caught.
Ooh, okay. like
But
that.
she developed some sort of like a potion that basically like a smoke bomb. So she went to one and like the guards were getting close, and so she like set off a smoke bomb, and that's how she got away. And that also sort of contributed to her idea of these like secret backroom potions that no one knows about.
I bet Pike invited you out for a night. And
Yeah,
then, of course, it
probably.
went
And
wrong.
she was mad at Pike about it, about almost getting her caught.
But you got to test your smoke bomb out, so was it really that bad?
Just imagine how big that smoke cloud has to be to obscure Kata.
I say vial, but I mean more like a mini cauldron. Like she has this thing that she has to like smash, and
Big ass
it's covered
bag.
half the city in
Smoke
smoke.
rises, right?
There you go.
Or you just squat down.
What about Cecily, Shauna? Has she ever been to one of these illegal performances?
Oh yeah, she's probably definitely been there. She's probably been there in different guises. It's probably just as a patron, or sometimes to work or perform there sometimes.
Nice. What about Kit?
I think Kit has gone to kind of a number of the speakeasy tea houses, not on any illicit business, just going about her life. I don't think it's necessarily, in her mind, like a super illegal thing. It's just that's where you go to meet certain people, to observe certain things. And I think she's also probably been there in protection of certain people as well. Even before the regime shift, after the regime shift, you go wherever you're told to go and you do your job. So I think she has. I don't think she would have gone to any of the Cirque performances. I don't think she's attending anything that would be raided. Even though maybe it's after curfew and things like that, there are certain places I believe the king wouldn't raid, because these are going to be his allies out having fun and things like that. So I don't think she's gone anywhere that would be she would be in trouble for being. It's just one of those, we don't talk about it.
Yeah. I know 100% there's places that just get overlooked conveniently. The guards are just, oops, not this way, turn around. Because, even
The golden
under the reign
curtains
of...
up.
Yeah. I mean, even under Osiron's reign, there were places that were conveniently overlooked because sometimes you have to make, gaps for things like that to make things run smoothly. Okay, so this is one last world-building question before we sort of get a little start into our adventure. But tell me something about this city that no one else knows. Something that only you know about this city, or a select group of people close to you know. We'll mix it up a bit this time. We'll start with Shauna.
I think that there. Oh, actually, come back to me. Because
Okay, we'll come back to you. All right, Jess.
I think that there are some underground escape tunnels in the palace, like that lead to the palace, a secret way in and out that not a lot of people know about, that Kata stumbled upon while she was working there. And that's what she intends to use to eventually start poisoning people in the palace. But she hasn't told anyone else about these tunnels yet because she doesn't want smugglers to find out, because she worries then the word will really get out. And she doesn't want them to be covered, basically. She wants to keep use of them. So she knows that probably quite a few people, or at least a couple of people who are very, very close to the king, maybe not even King Sefer knows about them. Maybe only King Osiron knew, and like his people. And she just happened to stumble upon them while exploring and got very lucky. And now she knows about them and wants to use those to poison some people in the palace.
I love it. I am so supportive of Kata's just poison everybody goal. I just want to see her live her best life.
Kata Dimadici over there.
Live her best poison life.
Yeah, I just want to see her succeed. All right, Mac, tell me something about the city that nobody knows.
So while there are the gardens that's where most of the well-kept, and those are very well-kept, and the plants there are tended to very nicely. There are sections of the city where wild weeds grow, and there are certain weeds that, when crushed down, make a very powerful hallucinogenic. That Pike herself has learned to recognize and swipe. She keeps it on the down low, as sort of sometimes a bargaining chip, and also sometimes I slip you this when deals go wrong and then I'm out sort of thing. It's not something she is willing necessarily to start selling yet, because it is very useful for quicker getaways, but she has learned to recognize when certain patches of weeds have this flower in them.
I really like that. That's the little sneak that she's got under her belt there. Little last resort she can be if she needs to. I like it. Okay. What is something about the city that nobody knows, Charlie?
So I think one side of the city is on a really steep slope. It makes it really hard to attack the city from that side. And along the edge of this slope, there are ruins of older city walls where the city's kind of moved back because the slope is eroding over time. And amongst these ruined walls, there's a well. And it's said that the well holds truth. At least that's the whisper that Kittery was told when she was told about this well. It was a very secret thing, and she doesn't know how many other people know, because this was told to her by a very old priestess, someone respected and told, this is a sacred secret. This isn't an everyday secret. And I think she was told the well holds the truth, but you need to only look at it when you're ready to see the truth. And I think she's wandered out there occasionally when the wind hasn't been too bad, because there's the risk of just being swept off the side of the hill. And she's approached the well a number of times, but I don't think she's ever looked into it yet. I think it's
nice.
It's kind of, that well, it could hold anything. And she doesn't know if she's ready for that yet.
Nice. See, now all I can think about is that painting by one of the academic painters called Truth coming out of her well to shame mankind. And it's just a naked woman climbing out of a well yelling at people for being idiots. And I love that. It's one of my favorite paintings. Should look it up. It's a good painting. Okay, so Shauna, do we have something that nobody knows about this city?
I would say that the academic heads of the colleges are deeply into organized crime.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. No, I love it. They have connections. Right.
Thank you very much, Jorian, for that donation. I will add that over into Susie's notes.
Thank you for those donations. We will get them in there. It might not all be at the same time, but we will get that in there, I promise you. Okay, so so we've built a bit of the city, and we'll build more as we explore it. We know a bit more about our characters now, but it is the first festival since the coup. And it is as though the whole city is here today. And for a moment, as they mingle amongst one another and they begin to relax, it's like they can pretend that nothing had ever happened. There are stalls of people selling their wares, food and drinks, games of chance and skill are being played. There are children running around with sticky faces and smelly hands as they are playing and chasing one another across the streets. And for one day, one brief moment, the people seem happy. The air is full of the smells of roasted meats and vegetables, of beer and spirits being shared and spilled. And as we pass over our scene of joyous celebration, where can we find you all on this day? Mac, where is Pike on this day? In the midst of this festival, it is a holy festival. It is the festival to honor the Protector.
Ooh, okay. She is probably... When there's a lot of people out, it's a little easier to conceal deals, so she is probably sitting in one of the areas in the garden that she normally frequents at night, but just more openly, kind of with a drink in her hand, and just sort of just keeping an eye out and waiting. If anyone knows and anyone is able to step by, they'll recognize the sign of her sitting by the specific tree with a compass rose kind of carved into one of the branches. That she is open to take a new contract as under the cover of the festival. But other than that, she is trying to enjoy herself and spend the little bit of her paycheck that she has not stashed away for another job.
All right, and it's kind of quiet where you are at the minute. People are definitely mingling. They're deep into their drinks and having a real good time, but there's the odd person that passes you by and kind of gives you the sort of the up and down, kind of trying to check you out, see if you are actually open for business. And you see as there's a human woman, and she doesn't seem to be particularly well off. She's wearing peasant's garb. It's not too dirty or stained, but she seems quite anxious as she looks at you, and she's not sure if she should approach you or if and she's kind of looking around to see if anybody's looking at her. She's making a scene by trying to be so inconspicuous. She's become incredibly conspicuous.
I deliberately move to the other side of the tree, and I'll give her the briefest eye glance and just sort of cock my head, but then I will just walk off to another area that is less crowded. And if she follows, great. And if she doesn't, she's not my problem.
And as you give her that brief glance, you see that she's kind of shocked, but then she gets this... You see her sort of steel herself for a minute. She takes a deep breath, and as you move away, she follows you, and she comes up to you and says, Are you Pechorin?
Yes, and if you don't make a scene like that next time. Just come up to me next time.
I'm sorry, I've never done this before.
I can tell.
I heard I hear you move things. Is that true? You can get things places.
I can. What do you need?
I need something out of this city.
Define something.
Well, I have this child. He's not exactly legitimate, and well, I kind of fear that something would happen to him. Can you move him?
How much money do you have?
I don't have a lot.
Where exactly am I moving him to?
Well, it's just a small town. It's only maybe 30 miles away. It's not too far. It's to be with my parents, you see. He's only very small. You could maybe put him in a basket or a box or something. I don't. He's
If you don't mind me asking, it's a kid, right? Why can't you go yourself?
Well, you see, I'm indebted to a store owner. I have to stay here and work.
Who's the kid's dad?
I prefer not to say.
I need to know who would be looking for this kid. Should I take the job on? You can't provide me that information. I can't do the job.
Well, he's. Have you heard of Victor? He's in with the a group of people who maybe acquire things that aren't necessarily theirs.
Would I have heard of Victor before?
Okay, hang on. Let me see if there is a check for this. I believe there might be.
Oh no, do I have to do the first roll of the campaign? Oh,
I think you might have to.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yes.
First.
Roll me a rumor check. So that is fellowship.
Fellowship. Okay. If I don't have the little bubble filled, then I just roll the straight D100, right?
I believe so, yeah. As I said, you bear with us, folks. This is a brand new system to, I think, everybody here, so we might be a little bit rusty to begin with, but we will get on it.
I very much do not know. It did not show up in. It didn't show up in the chat though.
No.
So roll it again, so it does pop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait. Nope. There it is.
No.
It took a while.
Nope. No.
I don't know who
no.
Victor is.
You don't know who this Victor is, but she's very anxious about who he is. You get the feeling that maybe, although you don't know him, he might have a bit of a reputation.
Okay. Look. It's a kid. I'll do it. Fine. You don't have the kid with you, I'm assuming, right now, right?
No, I didn't think that was a really quite appropriate.
Good. No, that's smart. When do you need it done by?
As soon as possible, whenever you can.
Okay. Meet me tomorrow. Meet me when the festival is over. We will discuss more detail then. Until then, in terms of payment, we'll work something out.
And she sort of moves as if she's going to hug you and then very much decides against it and steps back and she's just, thank you so much. I can't even tell you how much. Oh, thank you. And she turns and hurries off.
Don't. Just go.
And then she disappears into the crowd. Where do we find Cecily? As we follow this peasant woman into the crowd, we lose her amongst the faces. We zoom in on Cecily. Where is she?
She is getting just drunk at a bar. she's carousing with the rest of the other things, and just every so often she'll point out to the person tending, just like point at the person next to him, it's like just 2 on him, 2 on him. She's just like trying to rack up free drinks.
Okay. I imagine this is a tavern that you've been to quite a lot.
Oh, no.
And that
Yep.
you maybe have pulled this trick a fair amount on. I think this bartender in particular is quite keen and wise to this. And they sort of sigh and shake their head as they pour 2 drinks and slide them across.
It's like, hey,
No. Look, they say, look, you can't keep doing this.
it's the festival. It's having fun. Come on. You know I'm good for it.
You better be. Because otherwise
But
I'm
I
going to
am
have you
not.
cleaning the mugs again.
What have I not paid it back? Come on.
All right. I'm watching you, though.
Not doing anything. I'm just having fun. Celebrate.
Enjoy. And they turn off to serve another customer.
She probably has like drawings of her behind the bar, like of "Do not serve this person" and a bunch of other bars. Like,
I imagine, yeah, she's on like a, in the UK we call it getting barred from a place, you know, you're barred.
Mhm.
Imagine she's on lists across the city.
This is not.
All right, okay. And as we follow a patron leaving this particular tavern, where do we see Kata?
Kata is probably, as with most festivals, is working at a like an apothecary stall for people who might not know where the local apothecary is, or who just like suddenly need a quick fix of a hangover cure or something like that. She's probably working with the person who she is apprenticing with at an apothecary stall.
Okay, and you have had a whole bunch of customers come up to you today. By far, the most popular thing that's requested is a hangover cure, as at the Festival of the Protector, alcohol is a big thing. It is consumed in vast quantities, and people don't want to feel like death the next day. So I feel like you probably come stocked mainly with hangover cures. You get a couple of people coming up to you asking you for marital enhancements, and they're very about it, and they come up with all sorts of code words and how to describe what they want, and you have to decipher what they're asking. You get like a guy come up and say, "What's wrong with this wart here on my neck? It looks weird. Do you see? It's got like a face on it, doesn't it? Look, is that a face? Do you see a face on my wart? Because I think there's a face on it." You get a bunch of interesting characters coming up to you, and including at one point after there's almost like a lunchtime rush of people who have drunk a lot of beer and then instantly regretted it. But after it quiets down for a little bit, you get a very interesting sort of customer approach your stand. It is a very large, wide person, head to foot, in what appears to be dark plate armor. You can barely even see a face. They are just armor to you. It's like a set of armor from the palace came up to your stall, and they sort of lean on the counter that you have set up, and they say, "Excuse me, I'm here to investigate the murder of the king."
Oh, what are you doing here for that?
Well, we are investigating every avenue we can think of, and well, I'm aware that at one point there were apothecaries in the palace. Can you tell me a bit about that?
About what exactly? That I was an apothecary in the palace?
Oh, you were an apothecary at the palace, were you?
I know that you already knew that.
Are you here? Bizarrely, it sounds like it's coming from within the armor. A very small laugh.
Eat something weird? I have something that could probably help with that.
And the figure kind of turns around and goes, you hear very quietly them go, shh, Sati, quiet. And they turn back around. Now, if you wouldn't mind answering my questions, man, as they're looking up at you. Because you're 8 feet tall and I forgot that you were 8 feet tall.
Yes,
What was your role
exactly
in the palace? Did
I
you
was an
administer
apothecary
things to the king? Did you give him anything? Were you in charge of his medicines? Did you perhaps slip a bit of poison in there in his morning coffee when he wasn't looking?
Oh, poison coffee! You should have led with that. No, of course I didn't. I was an apprentice apothecary in the palace. I never touched anything that went anywhere near the king.
And you hear this tiny voice coming out again from the chest, saying, ooh, 2 worlds collide. Thanks, Jorian. I can't do Seti's voice. I'm so sorry. You hear this tiny little shrill voice saying, you should ask her again, due diligence. You should try and, I don't know, punch her or something, see what she says. And the armor sort of steps back and is like, excuse me? It's a bit drastic. We're just asking some questions, Seti. It's fine.
Kato, stands to her full height and crosses her arms over her chest and, looks down at them like, you sure you wanna punch me?
No, I'm sorry for my fellow detective here, but we will not be committing any assault today. Do you, by any chance, have coffee with you today?
I mean, that was one of the first things to sell out.
I see.
Festival day.
Any other sort of beverage in there? A stimulant, maybe?
Yeah. We do have our traditional lavender pick-me-up. It's a nice afternoon pick-me-up, taste of honey and lavender. It's a fan favorite, but also a little bit of a secret. Not everyone knows about it. So we don't always sell out when we come to these festivals.
You hear the voice go, that sounds good. And the armor reaches out and pulls it off its belt, a small coin purse. How much?
For you, I'll give you the friends and family discount. 2 gold crowns each.
Okay. And pulls it out and hands you the 2 crowns. And as you hand over the drink, he watches this suit of armor reaches around and unclasps something and opens up the front of its chest. And inside you see a small, must be a halfling, a very small person. They have like a shock of wild red hair. Their eyes are huge, staring out at you from the darkness. The little hand reaches out, grabs the drink, and closes the door and slams it shut in the chest. And the armor leans forward again and says, "Thank you for your assistance, ma'am. I'll be on my way. Take care."
Yeah, you enjoy that lavender pick-me-up. Let me know if you need help with that friend of yours. I mean, are you okay?
They are a good friend of mine. Sati has been with me for many years. They are a trusted friend and companion.
Well, all right.
Thank you.
You have a good one.
And they just sort of walk off into the crowd, and it's such a bizarre scene. I mean, you're used to seeing some weird shit at festivals, but you're not sure if this is like just a performance art piece or if this is just some fucking weirdo that's wandered in. But this is a new one. And as Due Diligence and Sooty make their way and to enjoy the festivals, we cut to Kit. Now, Kit, what does she do on the festival day? What is she doing right now? The festival has begun for the populace, but the priestesses haven't really done their bit yet. You haven't done your great celebration, the showy bit yet.
I think Kit is currently using the excuse of everyone being distracted and busy with the festival to walk through the palace and go to what used to be the throne room. What was the throne room before what happened? And she walks quietly and stealthily. She walks with purpose so no one will question it. But she's definitely cautious, and as she reaches these great stone doors, she stands for a moment and then lays a hand on them and pushes, and they open, and inside, I imagine it's a shattered kind of space. Tapestries torn down from the walls, paintings slashed. There's still blood smeared on the floor. But it's empty and it's hollow. And even though she treads quietly, riding the balls of her feet, there's a small echo, a small shuffle of the fabric, of the clinking fine mail, and it echoes around this empty, hollow room. And she approaches the dais on which the throne used to sit, and it's not there anymore. And there's this square. It's not in the dust. The stone itself is discolored, where it was there for so long, and it's now not there. And she kneels before this dais, as she had a number of times in her service, with her hand across her chest and her head bowed. And she whispers a prayer to the protector, and she says, "My king, I have not forgotten you. I made a promise that I intend to keep. No king shall die on my watch, and you are a god, and the gods do not die. It will be as it was. There can be only one king, and I am sworn to protect the king." And she pauses and remembers for a moment many times she'd been in this room on happier occasion, but then quickly stands, dusts herself off, looks around, and slips back towards the stone doors. She needs to change. There's a festival to go to.
And change you do, and you, I imagine you're sort of, you kind of stay in like a barracks almost, you know, with the others. Once you rise in station, you would get your own quarters, but there is definitely like a common area, at least, of other priestesses who are in various stages of getting ready with their ceremonial garb and their makeup, and some of them have already started hitting the juice a little bit in the morning. But you prepare yourself. How do you prepare yourself? What are you wearing for this festival?
I think she changes into a lighter robe. She's about to go out into a busy street and drink a lot. She doesn't want to tarnish her more expensive clothing. And she wants to be lighter and freer and a proper celebrant. So it's probably like a light cottony, linen-y fabric dress that she would wear. She'd still wear her collar of gold and her headpiece, and she'd fix her hair up and out of the way, although no doubt by the end of the night it'll be hanging limp and draped. And I think she takes great care to wash her hands and feet, and then she'll adorn those with rings and jewelry, things that will kind of glitter, and it'll also kind of clink and make noise and be part of that celebration.
All right. As you finish getting ready, one of the senior priestesses here gathers everybody, and she checks over everyone to make sure that you're ready to go. And the procession begins out into the city. And it is a grand affair. You're flanked by musicians who are playing a very upbeat and lively tune, something that's not been heard in quite some time here. As I said earlier, this is the first festival since the coup. This is the first time that there has been a public celebration like this that wasn't kind of a sad or a quiet, tense affair. And you are, as you step out into the streets, you are adorned with flowers from people in the crowds. They throw them over you, the petals. You are handed food, you are handed drink, which you are expected to drink deeply and drink well. And you are splashed with colored powders as you walk and you dance. And the atmosphere is so vibrant, so bright. It's kind of almost like euphoric in a way. The people seem to have just completely lost it as these priestesses come out, and you are just being handed drink after drink, Kit. It is tough on you, but you are a priestess of the protector. This is how you honor your goddess. And so you make your way to the city square, which has had big canopies erected with beautiful draped fabrics to shelter you from the sun as your main work is to begin, as you are all herded into that. Is there anything in particular that Kit would like to do to celebrate her goddess on this day?
I think one thing she does, she has this dagger that's very visibly tied to her thigh. Mm-hmm. And it's mostly like a traditional thing. It's we always have protection on us is the joke. And she'll draw it and hold it high and let out a cry in an old tongue. It's part pride, part just like salute, cheers. And then as the cry goes up, she'll stab the dagger down into a glass goblet and cause that glass goblet to just shatter and split and spill the wine across the table.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something she does very publicly, and as she does, she laughs, and it's one of the few times people will see her publicly emote, let alone laugh. And it's light and it's free, but there's definitely that thing, if you look closely enough at her dark eyes, there is actually joy there. Mm-hmm. This is just part of the performance.
And Cecily, Pike, and Carter, as this procession happens, basically everybody flocks to that city center. This is where the action is. This is where the party is. So you see this. You see these priestesses. And this is a rare thing to see. The priestesses are usually up in the palace with the king. You don't see them often. You see them once or twice a year, or if they're escorting the king through the city. And it's kind of... It's kind of an event for this sort of festival. This is not a yearly festival. This happens every couple of years. And so this is something to put on your calendar. Would you like to join in with the festivities, or are you kind of like on the edge watching?
Oh yeah, definitely in there. Just people are handing out free drinks and free food. Yeah, why not? Let's do it.
Yeah, 100%. There's at this point, the exchange of gold is completely out of people's minds. They are just trying to get each other as drunk as possible, and handing out food, handing out, there's like sticky treats and like there's honey and stuff. There's rich foods that you haven't had in months. It is heaven. And as you're all enjoying these festivities and the priestesses are getting more and more drunk, the white linens that they're wearing are stained with wine and beer and these colored powders and the flowers and their makeup smudging all over their faces as they're getting absolutely wankered at this festival. There is a disruption you hear your attention is drawn by cries ringing out around you. You can see in the confusion in the crowd, there's people being jostled and pushed aside as a small lithe figure darts between them, closely pursued by 3 guards. Pike, you see this person, you know this person, this is one of your runners, and they see you, and they give you that look, and they go, run, they're onto us, Pike, go, and they sprint.
Don't make a scene, and then I split.
Kata, you recognize this runner, Cecily, you recognize this runner, and Kit, you are in the midst of one of your particular salutes. You and a couple of other priestesses are offering up a sacrificial goblet of beer to be consumed in your prayer, and you are almost knocked over by this small lithe figure that's running past.
Into her drinks, her reaction is to fight, and the elbow just comes back to smash whoever has just knocked into her. It's just a knee-jerk reaction. If someone just hit me from behind, I turn and I hit them back. The dagger is still in hand, and it's just like a reaction. And then she kind of spins and she looks to see who on earth just ran into her.
You see that you feel a connection, and you feel hair on the back of your arm as you connect with the back of their head, and you knock them to the ground, and you see them get up and go, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. And then look behind them, and you see the 3 guards chasing at them. You see Pike keeping a sort of semi-distance. You see the very familiar form of Kata, 8'8", standing atop the crowd, kind of looking to see what's happening. And this person is kind of there on the floor. You have a knife in your hand. I'm sorry, I really didn't mean to. Don't kill me.
On here. And she looks between Pike, who she doesn't recognize, and then up to Kata. Kata! And she raises her hands in joyous salute to greet her friend, already kind of forgetting about the person on the floor. Steps over their form to go and meet Kata. How are you, friend?
Much better for seeing you. And Kata does sort of a... she sort of leans down to hug, and as she does, she sort of tosses out a vial of potion, just trying to be very subtle about it, almost like she's dropping it, that just releases a cloud, a very small cloud of smoke, but more importantly, it's basically a stink bomb.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
So, and there's people going, oh, fucking hell. Oh, what is...
The ale does not agree with you, friend!
Yeah, something happened. We should get out of this area. The smell is too much.
Yes, it offends me and it'll offend the protector. And she'll kind of link arms and drag you away from here. She sheaths her knife back in her kind of garter and leads the way, just assuming crowds will part for her.
I mean, between you being a priestess and Kata being 8 foot tall, I think we're probably good on getting through.
Yeah, I mean, Kit's 6'2", and you make her look short, but the 2 of us just giraffes, just powerfully moving through the crowd.
I love it. Okay, as they begin to move, you look past Pike, you look past the person on the ground. You see that tucked into Kit's belt that she's wearing in her dress, there appears to be something, a small letter, a small package, something small has been roughly tucked into the top of that. You get the feeling, now this is a tactic you have used before and you're quite familiar with, that this bump was not accidental.
Okay, Kata's still with Kit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I will see if I can wave down Kata if Kata's busy or paying attention.
Oh yeah, Kata's probably keeping an eye out since she recognized the runner. She at least wants to make sure like she doesn't get sort of like pointed out because she probably also saw this runner like very visibly worn pike and is like, not me though, right? I'm not part of this.
I think I would have probably cued you into a couple of our signals, and I'm gonna like, if I can get one of the colored powders that were being used in the ceremonial, like throw up a pinch on a wall. That's just like, package nearby. And then like,
yeah, Kata
tilt my head.
All right, Kata will like look around and probably see it on Kit.
I feel like the cat is probably gonna do like that whole like, oh, friend hug. Oh, okay.
You're very friendly. I like you on the wine. She like pats your face. She's definitely sloshed. She does this festival right.
Kit is like three
I
sheets
don't
to the
get out
wind.
much. Yeah, when I go out, I go all out.
Today they say we are the goddess reborn, and that is why we can consume so much and not feel its effects tomorrow. So you'll just touch the goddess.
Well, that seems exciting. I wouldn't mind touching goddesses more often.
You are brave. I like the festival with you. And she just reaches out her hand and picks up a couple of drinks from like a stall that's just on the street, and she hands one to Carter.
Yeah, I mean, and you are not challenged at this or anything. As being a priestess on this day, anything is yours. So, Pike, are you going to follow them, or did you just give Carter the heads up?
I'm going to follow them because I need to pick up the package.
Okay, do you want to do this, like, stealthily, or are you just going to be like, friends? How are you approaching this situation?
I don't think, I'm not intentionally trying to be stealthy, but I'm also not, like, getting super close and, like, super social. It's just more of, like, ambling and taking the shortcuts I know to sort of intercept their paths occasionally. And just waiting for a moment where we can do the handoff.
Okay. All right. No worries. Cecily, as you have been enjoying the festival and you've been, taking the free drinks, checking the free food, maybe, eating a few things that you haven't had a chance to eat in some time, you see a very large ogre, accompanied by quite a large human woman. And they're heading in your sort of direction.
I'm an elf, Susie.
You're an elf. I am so sorry. You are an elf. How could I forget?
Yeah, she'll just she'll wander up to Kit and just like, praise be, priestess. Have a wonderful celebration.
Praise be. Protect and watch over all of us. And she's trying to obviously be quite serious, but she's swaying just a little bit. Here's an offering, and she holds out the drink that she was about to take to you.
Oh, thank you very much. She like spins around and she's just kind of like, okay. She kind of like, oh, I think I've drank a little bit too much.
There is nothing as too much today.
Oh, of course not. Just wait for that second win.
Maybe enjoy some food with your wine.
I don't think food is good for this. I don't think good. But thank you.
You are unwell, and she does become more serious. She's still swaying a little bit, but she's less acting and now actually taking the situation more seriously. What ails you, my friend?
Just enjoying too much sometimes. Sometimes you just drink too much, sometimes you eat too much, but a little bit of like vacating the stomach and you're good again. Is that right?
I have heard of such tactics, yes. Perhaps you would be interested to know my friend, Kata, a fine apothecary.
Yes, if you're looking for other options, you could also. We've got plenty of potion salves, things like that would help a lot.
Beautiful and knowledgeable. Good. I have a good feeling that I'm gonna need hair of the dog, something like that, for tonight.
You can find the stall right over there. There's still a couple people working at it, and they can hook you up with whatever you need.
Oh, thank you very much. What's your name?
Kata.
Oh, good.
Who are
Nice
you?
to meet you. Cecily. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Cecily.
Do I see Pike anywhere?
I think he probably, because she's not making concerted effort to sort of stealth. She's just kind of just low key, just meander her way after them. So you would see her. You know her. You'd spot her in a crowd.
And if she comes, I'm gonna just kind of like amble my way. It's like, what is it? Work?
You could say that, I suppose. I wasn't expecting it, but I'll take it.
Ooh, what is it? What is it?
Green. And I'll, nod over to wherever I'd splashed the powder up against the wall.
You need any help?
Can you get that package off her?
Oh. I can try. If you want, although I can we can do the old distraction thing that we usually do. I can talk to her again. Have you do it? I think your hands are a little more deft at this point. It's been a good party.
I have not. I can see. How many people have you conned into paying for you?
I've been doing this for a couple hours, so 10?
Surprised
Haven't been
it's not
kicked out yet.
15.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing well. You're
Mind
getting
is still
better at
young.
this. Oh boy. I will go and wait for Cecily to go back and distract.
Okay, so because unfortunately we're at the end here. So as Cecily and Pike meander their way after Kata and Kit, who I imagine are probably headed towards a tavern somewhere inside so they can sit down. That is where we will end our session for tonight and find out just what is in that package next week. But
Awesome.
that was awesome.
Yeah, so we have a couple of things to take care of before we do end today's session.
Mm-hmm.
So let's corruption it up. For those of you wondering, we are now about to do a poll. I'm just about to open it. You will be able to vote for one of us to receive a point of corruption, a step on that corruption ladder towards chaos. Susie, would you like to share some more details about corruption while I pull up this poll?
Bear with me 1 second.
Okay, so the options on the poll are going to be Kit at 0, Kata is 1, Cecily is 2, and Pike is 3. You will see all of this in chat. That is all there for you.
I wrote some notes and then I lost them. Sorry, folks.
That's okay. So, Zweihander, we have two opposing forces in our life. We have order and chaos, and our personality can shift in one direction or the other. For example, Kit, on one end has ferocity, and on the other end has hatred. And as she moves between these two, based on her actions, based on decisions she makes, she may become more of one or the other of these things. And in this world, we are forever battling with ourselves as much as we are with the external.
One other thing to note is your actions in the game can cause you to have corruption. So, for example, there are 3 types of offenses for corruption. You have your minor, your middling, and your major offenses. Now, a minor corruption offense can net you 1 to 2 corruption, and that's something like grave robbery, being heretical, or reading heretical or profane grimoire, doing something a bit maybe occultish. A middling offense can be from anything from assaulting an innocent person to torturing someone, and that can net you anywhere between 4 to 6 points of corruption. Then you get your major corrupting offenses. They can net you anywhere between 7 to 9 corruption, and you have things like, I don't know, murder from the poison, maybe.
What?
Other things
What
like
a
that.
weirdly specific example.
It's such a weird specific example.
I don't understand what that's referencing. It's so odd.
Yeah, just out of the blue there.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for no
Strange
reason.
call out from the DM there. I'll for a moment, and we will soon find out who is receiving that corruption. But why don't we go around to say who we are, what we enjoyed today, and where we can find you and all of that good stuff. And I'd like to start with Susie. How was today for you, friend?
Today was great. This is actually my first time GMing in a way like this, where it's a very collaborative world build. I've played with a couple of GMs, Charlie included, who favor this model, and I was like, I really like that. I'm gonna steal it. So that's the best bit of being a GM. You like something, you steal it. And this cast and crew, oh my god, the stuff that came out during this little thing has just been. Oh, it's been so juicy. We've had betrayals, we've had murders, we got people running smuggling rings, we've got vows of maybe necromancy. I don't know, maybe a little spot of necromancy to go with the poison murders. I mean, we seem like a very good and not at all corrupt team here. But you can find me all over the internet at Susanna Grace. I am a variety streamer who does video games, tabletop RPGs, and art streams. I have a pinned tweet on my Twitter, which has my schedule and all my links, so make sure to check that out. You're muted, Charlie.
Good timing, because we have our result for the corruption. Pike, please.
Oh!
Make a note on your sheet. For today, the Chaos Chorus have chosen you to face corruption.
Uh-oh.
And while you mark that, before we move around, I'm going to open the giveaway because we did unlock some tabletop loot dice today. So, ! Loot in chat right now if you would like to win some dice. And speaking of Pike, Mac, how was today for you?
Oh my gosh, today was so much fun. This is my first time doing a world building session like this, and that was phenomenal. I cannot wait to get more into Pike's head and get into that ambitious smuggler mindset for the upcoming sessions. Also, I have a point of corruption now. That's not concerning at all. It's probably fine. But anyways, you can find me over on Mackenzie Lane DA on Twitter. I am a TTRPG streamer and writer. You can find me as a DM over on Scratix Academy every Tuesday for a D&D 5e campaign called Apotheosis. You can also find me as a player here on Scratix Academy and over on the Greyhawk channel. I also write and design games, and I tweet about that a lot on the Twitter sphere. So follow me there to get all the updates. And thank you so much for bringing me back. I'm so excited to get into this world.
Awesome, and it's been great to have you. I'm so excited about this game. All right, Jess, how was that for you? Where can we find you and all of that good stuff?
That was so much fun, and I loved the collaborative world building, and I'm definitely going to steal that for my next game. You can find me on Twitter at WriteJessR, or you can find all of the stuff that I do on my website, writejess.com, WRITEJESS.com. I do a D&D actual play podcast called D20 Games, and I GM a game of Blue Rose actual play podcast called Bitches and Liches, and I write for the DM's Guild and Drive Through RPG sometimes. I do all sorts of stuff, and you can find it all on my website.
I like the simultaneous head nod of approval with everyone in the cast of this game.
The Bitches and Liches, yes.
Go and check that out. If you have a link, Jess, throw that in chat so people can go and check that out. Shauna, I'm so glad I've gotten to play with you. I've been waiting for this opportunity. How are you today?
Good. I love Session Zero. It's the first time I think in a while I've done collaborative campaign, and it's delightful. I've enjoyed as it's gotten closer, everybody posting their little random rolls, and it's everyone's characters are wonderful. I love it. But yeah, I am Shauna Flying Cirrus on Twitter, where I have posted all the games I play as well as art I post, and hopefully I'll be able to do some for some of the characters here. So hopefully.
Ooh, that'd be amazing. Speaking of art, I do want to shout out Susie, who did the amazing overlay background piece that you'll get to see in full when we finish here in just a moment. But wow, what a session 0. I've been really enjoying building this world with all of you, seeing what we can make with Zweihander. I do want to just hold up this beautiful book again and say, go and check it out. Go check out the system. If you want to play a fantasy game, this is a system worth checking out. The book is stunning. It's packed with so much art, and the design is amazing. Let me see if I can show you. It's all shiny, but there's so many variable options and characters. As you can see here, we've got gnomes, we've got ogres, we've got elves, we've got talls, we've got smalls, we've got swalls. We've got Susie attempting to bring order to the chaos. And we have the rebellion. So make sure you are back here next week for 4 p.m. Eastern, which is when we will continue this Broken Crown Zweihander adventure. And if you've enjoyed it, do a tweet. Give us a hashtag The Broken Crown so we can hear from you. We like that stuff. And also, join the Discord. We have a channel now for Broken Crown, which you can get in and have a good old chinwag in. Let's pick our winner. The winner is Pope Wilbeld. Congratulations, friends. I hope you will enjoy those tabletop loot dice. Thank you to everyone who's been here in chat. Thank you to Brian for the raid earlier. Hashtag Connor Army. Great to see you in. And thank you to the cast and crew. I'm about to schedule up a rerun of last night's Tentacle Tuesday. I'll get the right show in the end. So if you missed that last night, stay tuned because that'll be coming up right after this for you all to watch. It was a really cool session 0, Call of Cthulhu. But until next time, try not to roll too many nat 1s because we want to be there laughing when you do. Good night, everyone.